And constantly, I'm still trying to prove to others that you can do anything, like anything you put your mind to. And no, it's not going to come easy. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have blood. You're going to have sweat. You're going to have tears. It's going to be extremely hard. But if you do that, if you work your butt off and you continue grinding, as long as you don't quit, you can do anything that you want to in this world.
1, 2, 3, 4.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 88 of the On the Runs podcast. We are coming to you virtually, baby, like always. Erica, what's up?
Not much. 88. Can you believe that?
88.
I have to tell you.
Double eights. David Pasternak, baby.
The number 8 is my favorite number, and so this is going to be
Really?
an excellent podcast for many reasons, but including that one.
8 is a great number. You know, Cam Neely, he was number 8. David Pasternak, he's double eights. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was number 8, and then he was 88. Like, 8s are really cool. I love the number 8. That's a good pick for a favorite number. Just curious, how did you
mine, it was my soccer jersey when I played in high school.
All right, cool. It was my baseball number one year, I remember. But it was basically the only year I had number 8. 8's a great number. Episode 88.
Great.
We made it. We're a week into the new year. Like, how is everything, Eham?
It's still going good. I'm still reeling over the choices that I made race-wise for this coming year. So, I got some training to do.
I'm excited. We both do for sure. Well,
Yep.
This episode is one of our longest ever guest appearances. And let's get into it, because we have this guy that you met last summer, Jared Ewing, and we talked to Jared for nearly 2.5 hours. It was so good.
Just buckle up, you guys. You're going to really enjoy it because he has quite the story to tell.
So on this episode, here's what we're going to do. We talked about this before the end of last year. We did it a few times, and we're going to do it more this year. When we have a long guest appearance, we're going to do our outro a couple days later on Thursday. Instead of making this a 3.5-hour episode, we're going to try to keep it in that 2-hour range. This goes over the 2-hour range. And I did very minimal editing on this one, actually, just because it kind of flowed. I like the way it flowed also. Editing a 2.5-hour guest appearance is a lot of work. So I just let this one really flow. I made sure I took out the key parts, like when you talked about that thing that you did to get happiness in your house. We'll leave that out. That's another time. Well, actually, there is this one funny story. At one point, we talk about nurses, and I go, hey, I have a story about a nurse. I don't think I shared it. I said I'll share it after. I don't think I did. So before this episode ends, I'll share the hot nurse story. You're going to like this. You're going to like it. But before we get to Jared, guys, please don't forget, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, subscribe to our YouTube channel. In our brand new Strava Club, Erica created us a Strava Club. How cool is that?
So you can just search for On the Runs Podcast Strava Club or something along those lines and join us, and we'll keep each other motivated in this new year.
And then if you really love us and you want to be a big supporter of the pod, like Pam was, and we talked about Pam last week, you can join our Patreon page, because our patrons are amazing, and you can be a friend of the pod or a lover of the pod. And even if you're not a patron, you're still amazing, and we still love you. I'm losing my breath. I am getting exhausted just talking here because I just ran.
All right, guys, let's jump in. Please enjoy this episode with Jared Ewing on the On the Runs podcast.
Our next guest on the pod is from Ohio, but Erica was super fortunate to meet him here last summer. He is a military vet who found his running story after a tragic accident back in 2018, and he's here to tell us his story. We are wicked excited to welcome Jared Ewing to the On the Runs podcast. What's up, Jared?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on. Nice to finally do this.
We're super excited to have you. It's really nice to see you again. I know it's been a few months since we connected. As Eric actually dropped already, I got to meet you at a nice fundraising event from Yuma. Did you meet Yuma from the military, or do you know her just from the New Hampshire running community?
Just from the New Hampshire running community. Yeah, I through a mutual friend, Jordan Whitaker. I met Yuma at the Boston Marathon because we're all
Oh,
charity runners.
awesome. Oh, well, that's going to bring up some topics tonight. That's awesome. But
Yeah,
when we were there at that fundraiser, Melissa from the Run Walk Brew Club, actually, Eric's wearing a nice shirt of that at the moment. But she was like, you have to meet this guy. So I'm so glad that she connected us, and I'm glad that this is finally happening. So welcome.
yeah. Thanks. Yeah, Melissa's awesome. Yeah, she's definitely a big fan, and she's a great wing woman. I'll tell you that because I'm more of a conserved person. I kind
Mhm.
of laid back, but she's right up there introducing me to everybody. So I love it. Yeah, and so I get to meet great people like you guys.
Well, she
Now,
does the same thing for us too. She's
she
definitely
really
like, "Hey,
does.
you got to meet these people." So
She really does.
I'm glad she's there to connect.
I'm like, Melissa, do you
Yeah,
want to come on the podcast? And she's like, yes, I'll come on. But really, you need to meet Jared or Heather or Amanda and have them on. They're so much better than me. And I'm like, I want to have you all. So I'm
yeah,
super happy to actually finally talk to you. We've been chatting for a few months. We've rescheduled once or twice, maybe on our end, maybe on yours. I forget. But we finally have
yeah,
you here to help us kick off the year 2024. And you kind of just dropped before we started. You just moved. So you were in New Hampshire and you just moved. Let's get to know you and really hear a little bit about before we get into your story. But let's
Mhm.
hear about Jared. Where are you from? How did you come to New Hampshire and where did you go?
yeah. So I'm from Akron, Ohio. Grew up there. I went to college at the Ohio State University. I graduated from there, and then after that, I actually moved down to North Carolina for a few years. So I was at this point, I was like 23, single guy. Had a buddy that moved down there. Moved there with him, and after about 3 years, missed the family and friends. Moved back to Ohio. So I kind of have this pattern now. But
That story
anyhow,
sounds
when I was
familiar.
yeah,
Just a little bit,
when I was
right?
I lived in Charlotte for 3 years as a single guy. Then I
okay.
eventually came home to New Hampshire. Oh,
Yeah,
when were you
that's
in
where I was. Yeah,
Charlotte?
in Southern Charlotte. That must have been, what was it? 2011 to 2014.
Okay, I was there 2008 to 2011.
Oh, you guys
Okay, so
just
we
Yeah, we
close.
just
missed,
missed each
just
other.
missed each
Yeah,
other.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool
yeah,
little town. They call it uptown, not downtown.
yeah. That threw me off for a long time. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Where's downtown?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, it's
Yeah.
uptown."
One of the
Psych.
girls, one of the girls I did date down there, she was Charlotte born and bred. She goes, it used to be so dumpy and trashy. They wanted people to think of it like uptown. It's nice and
Yeah,
glamorous and shiny. And so they called it uptown instead of downtown.
Mm.
yeah. And I actually, I was starting to say that here for a little bit once I moved back to Ohio, but no one was having it. So
Nobody caught
went back
on.
to the old downtown. Yeah.
I mean,
So
if Billy Joel can do it, why can't why can't everyone else?
exactly
Mm.
right. Yeah, so continue on. So when I was down in North Carolina, that's when I joined the National Guard.
Oh.
School loans kicked in, looking for a way to get those things paid off. And I had always wanted to be in the military since I was a little kid. My grandpa, who served, kind of talked me into going to school first and then joining. And so once I got out, it didn't take me too long before I signed up for the Army National Guard. And so I did that. And then, yeah, once I moved back to Ohio after about 3 years, I was doing work for the National Guard up here because I got an active duty Army National Guard job, and so I was doing that for a while. And then, my accident ended up happening, and we'll eventually get to that.
Mhm.
And then after that, I just was looking to get away for a little bit. Wanted to grow as a person. Maybe it was involved with the accident. I don't know at this point, but really something was like calling me to kind of just move away. And to be honest, I was applying for jobs in like Florida and Texas and Colorado. And I just knew one person from New Hampshire, some guy that did the same job as me, but for the New Hampshire Guard. I
Mhm.
met him up in Idaho at an IT school and just we stayed in touch. And then eventually one day when I was telling him I was looking to get out of Ohio, he's like, "You should come up to New Hampshire." And I was like, "New Hampshire?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, BAE Systems is always hiring vets, IT
Yeah.
vets with clearances, and I check all those boxes." And so I was like, "I'll apply." And I applied, and it was probably one of the easiest interviews I ever had. And before I knew it, I was moving 10 to 11 hours away, where I knew just one person, and I'd never even visited. So,
Well,
so
that's
yeah,
pretty cool that now you have quite the what do you want to call it? Not a safety net, but a web of friends in New Hampshire. So we're hoping to see you back here sometime soon.
You have to. I need to meet
it's
you.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like a second home now. It's to me, I had a better experience than I did when I was in North Carolina. Nothing against North Carolina, but I was more, like I said, I'm more introverted unless I really get to know you, and then I'll talk your ear off. But when I was down in North Carolina, I had work friends, I had buddies in the guard, but I kind of relied on my roommates to get me out or to hang out with their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was just a different vibe. And so that's why after the accident, all that, I was like, I want to move to some place where I don't really know no one. So it forces me out of my shell and I can grow as a person. And I think New Hampshire definitely did that for me. I grew up so much when I was out there. Just again, now I can talk to more people, came out of my shell. And like I said, I just made so many friends there. And so I will be back, plenty of times, especially because I like snowboarding. So
I'll go skiing with you. I'll ride with you too. I can snowboard up and down the mountain as well, just as good as I can skiing. Maybe not as good as I can skiing, but I want to actually ask you about this. You moved to New Hampshire. You knew one person. Amazingly, one of the hardest things in my life. I don't think that's fair, actually. But just when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, I knew nobody. And I wanted to do this for years. I knew what I wanted to do. I had this goal and this dream. And then I moved there and I knew no one. And there was like these days and nights of like, oh my God, it's Saturday night and I'm just staying in and everyone's having fun. Like, went through this whole process of making friends. How did you go through that meeting people and making friends process when you moved to New Hampshire?
So for me, it was a little bit easier. So I had my my one friend that I knew through the guard and stuff. And so on the weekends, every once in a while I'd get a hold of him because for sure, like I'm kind of a homebody during the week. I kind of like my being alone time, being in my routine. I love my routine. But then on the weekend, I like to, have fun just like everyone else and be around
Absolutely.
people. And so when I was there, I didn't really know enough people at first, but my buddy that I know he's a chatty Cathy. He gets out there, he talks to everybody. So I knew it was a way to meet other people. But also the big key was working at BAE. There was nothing but like probably 90% of the people that work there are veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was real easy to make friends there. And then my group of friends, there was probably like 6 or 7 of us. There was only one person and I would say he was from like Lowell, Mass. So everybody was from different parts of the states. And so we all became each other's like family in a way. There was somebody from
Awesome.
Puerto Rico. There was somebody from Florida. There was somebody from Colorado. And there was a few other places as well. And it was like, so when we'd have a Friendsgiving, we became like such a close group of friends. And then I would either hang out with them or we'd go out and do things on the weekends. And I think just working at BA really helped out again because the veteran community there was so strong. And it's like that just makes it very relatable to make
Absolutely.
friends.
That's such a
awesome.
hard thing to do is just like breaking out of your shell. But once you find that core group of people, like you hang on to them, don't let them go.
Right.
And the cool
Exactly.
thing is that core group stays intact even when you move. I'm still really good friends with all that core group of friends in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we live, like one lives in Dallas now, the other one's still in Charlotte. I'm here. We still talk and communicate and occasionally see each other for a surprise 40th birthday party that happened the other year. And it was a ton of fun.
That's
So
awesome.
you still got that core group here. And we know that's people like Melissa and others who you met in the running community. And before we get to your story, talk about the running community here in New Hampshire, because you mentioned how much you loved it before we hit that record button.
Yeah, so when I first moved there, of course, I was just more of a solo runner. But I always tell people I get so used to that, but I really do enjoy running with people. There's nothing like it, even if you're not talking, even if you're just running along with someone. And so, the way I found the running community up there was through my buddy. I told him I was trying to get into the Boston Marathon. He's like, "Well, I know a person, I know someone that's doing it. She might be able to get you in. She might not be able to." And I was like, all right. So she linked up. So we linked up. And at first, I don't think there was like any bibs or anything open at this time. This is like in January. So that's getting close to like go time.
Deadlines are
And
looming.
and so I continued and I was like, yeah, I'm trying to do that. I've heard of the World Majors. So we started talking and then somehow, she found a bib for me. And I was like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And so I did that, accepted the bib. And then I met up with her for a few times to go running, up there in like the Hillsboro, Henniker area.
Mhm.
And once I did that, just me and her hung out more. And then I met Yuma through her and Melissa through her. And so I didn't really get into the New Hampshire running community till after Boston. But once I met everybody, and then again, all those events, charity events and stuff that people were holding, or Millennium Running,
Mhm.
and some of the little 5Ks, things like that. And I just would meet them. And just, again, just the community up there, if I was looking for someone to run, it was very easy to find someone. And so I really enjoyed that. And going to try to find one here in Ohio where I'm at.
Where are you now? Are you back in Akron?
I'm just south of Akron, so we call it UCLA, Upper Canton, Lower Akron.
Okay.
I'm not good at geography, so I can't even tell you where
if you
in
know
the state that is, but we got some buddies out there now.
Where's Menor, Ohio? It's okay. I'm looking it up. It is okay.
That's closer to Cleveland.
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
northeast of Cleveland. So we do have some friends up there. It's like NERC, like Northeastern Running Club of Ohio or something.
Okay.
We've had friends on the pod, Patrick Lieber, Angela Pohl. We're going to have Pam
Jeannie
on
Rice.
soon. It's it's funny. We're a New Hampshire podcast. We have a ton of friends here in New Hampshire. Maybe the state that holds the second most guests for us outside of New England is Ohio.
Ohio.
That's awesome. That's actually good to know.
Included.
Yeah.
We're slowly spreading south through the like New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia. We are going up to Quebec in a couple of weeks, but then we'll come back and we'll spread through the country on the runs. We'll continue this amazing growth. But we are here for you and your story. And we are a storytelling podcast. I don't know if you listened before, but we love all stories: good, bad, happy, sad, inspirational. Even if you shit yourself, and then you kept running, we're here for it.
Yeah.
There's no nice way to put that one. It's just if you shit yourself.
We could save a story for the end.
Yes.
After. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Nice.
We'll mark that down. But
a code brown. I got a code brown.
Yes. All right. But your story, I think, is going to be hit a lot differently than anyone else we've had on the podcast. And I don't know it. I have no clue. I don't know if Erica has a clue, but when we talked, you're like, it's really lengthy and I just need to share it. And then you can ask questions along the way. So this is going to be fun.
This is going to be pretty brand new for me too. I know only the bare bones about it. So this is going to be
the only thing I know is it involves your leg, at least part of your leg. Yeah. So let's hear your story. The one thing we're just going to say is spare no details. We're here for the length. Okay. We're here for the whole thing. You don't need to give us you give us whatever you're comfortable with sharing. We're here for it, and our listeners are too.
All right. So here we go. So we'll start with way back in 2017. I just turned 31. I was, bucket list running. Let's run a marathon. It's a bucket list thing. I'm gonna do. Surely I'm gonna be a one and done. That's it. I don't even like running at this point, right? So I had a buddy I worked with. He was like, "Hey," he's like, "I've ran a couple." He's like, "You for sure can." And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "Well, I just turned 31. That'd be cool to knock it off the bucket list." So we trained for about 3 or 4 months, and we ran the Columbus Marathon. So that was my first one. That was in October of 2017. So excited. So I remember that one like it was yesterday. I finished just a little bit after 4 hours, but I was just super excited. I couldn't believe it, what I just did. I had all the aches and the pains. I felt everything along that run, all the lows, all the highs. And once I finished, of course, just like everyone else, I got the bug. And then I started thinking, well, I wonder how much faster I could do this, or I wonder how many of these I can run. And so I instantly, I get on the Facebook at this time. I wasn't big on Instagram yet, but I had just found people like I found David Goggins. And so I found that the Iron Cowboy. And so I'm reading their stories, and like the Iron Cowboy at that time had did the 50 Ironman, 50 states in 50 days. And so I'm the type of person. So I'm the type of person. I always say, why not me? If that person can do it, like surely I can do my own version or something.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to train up for like a year. And I was like, the following fall, I was like, there's the Air Force, Marathon, Columbus Marathon, and Akron Marathon. All three of them within 5 weeks. And so I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to see it. And so I told people about it. They all looked at me like I was crazy. And so I trained my butt off for about a year. And so at this point, I was like 32 years old. And like I said, it was the fall of 2018. I'd say I was in the best shape of my life. Like I said, I had been really hardcore into listening to David Goggins and reading up on him. And with the military mindset I had, I was always looking to challenge myself. So I would, after hearing about him, I'd wake up at like 3 a.m. and go run in the snow.
That's early.
Oh, wow.
I didn't
That
care
is
how cold.
hardcore.
I'd have 3 or 4 layers on, and I'd be out there running. I would go to the gym.
What time would you go
I'd
to
lift
bed?
weights for 9-ish, 10-ish at that time.
Yeah, push
But I'm not big on sleep. I tend to think it's overrated. But
You can sleep when you're
hey,
dead.
You and I differ on that
exactly.
point. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Like Kobe said, I'll rest at the end.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so I was doing that, and I would go outside, run. I'd layer up 3 or 4 different layers, and I said, and I would even go run those miles after I was in the gym for like 2 hours. So I was like super hardcore. And at this time, I'm not gonna lie, like from working out in college and stuff, I pretty much had like chicken legs. So my thing was, I'm gonna build up my legs so good, right? This will feed into my story, the story later on. So my thing was, I'm gonna build up these legs because they're not strong. So I'm gonna beat them up every day. I'm gonna do legs. Then I'm gonna go outside and run in the snow and do this and that, right? So the fall came around. I was in pretty good shape. I ran all 3 marathons. The first one, the Air Force one, they had to actually cut that one off. There was like, it was too hot that day, and so I barely
Oh.
made it past. There was a lot of people falling out and stuff. So
Wow.
I ran it. I was cramping up around like the half marathon mark. So it was like the only marathon I've ever cramped up, and it was like a walk jog for like 13 miles. But I finished that. 2 weeks later, I did the Akron Marathon, and then a week later after that, I did the Columbus one. And I somehow got faster with each of those.
I'm impressed.
And
Week by week.
yeah,
You're a marathon maniac.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was taking off for a while, but in the meantime, I had read about the Abbott, the World Majors or whatever. And I was like, man, that'd be cool to do that now. I was like, all right, I did this. I was like, I want to do some travel and I get to all these majors.
Yeah.
So that was like my next big goal, was like to do that and trying to figure out how I'm gonna get into all these marathons. And so December comes around. So it's December 7th. I'm still living in Columbus in this time. That's where my National Guard unit was. I was full time. And of course, family and friends up in Akron, Ohio. It's like 2 hours away. And so about 1 weekend a month, I would travel up there just to visit friends, family. At that point, I have goddaughters and a godson, which are like my world. And so I really just enjoyed visiting them every time I'd go home. So I went there for a weekend in December. I stopped and saw my parents, visited with them for a little bit, got something to eat. And then I went over to my buddy's house, visited with my goddaughters. And then I had another buddy, kind of like my wingman up there. He got a hold of me. It's like, hey, he's like, do you want to go up to Cleveland? He's like, so-and-so's sister, it's her 21st. And I'm like, sure. I mean, you ain't got to twist my arm.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to get out and stuff. And so that was the plan. So we all went out to eat for her birthday, but this was still like down in Akron. There was like 7 of us. So then after that, we were like, let's go up to Cleveland. So we Ubered up there. Oh, I got one of those Uber XLs. We Ubered up to Cleveland and just had a long night. We stopped at one bar. We had a drink, a shot, kind of sat around, but it was like shoulder to shoulder. So we're like, hey, let's leave there.
Yeah.
There was another bar where we knew the DJ and we knew one of the bartenders. So that's always going to be a better move, right? It's like you kind of know the people there. You're going to have better access to things. And so 7 of us went to this bar, and we were there probably from like midnight to about 2 a.m. So it was a great night. I was a dancing machine as always. It doesn't take much to get me dancing on the dance floor too. That's one thing. I will do that even sober as can be. People would think I'm drunk because I'm out there just having a good time. But
We're just having fun. Come on.
Yeah. So I was, having a great night. It was a good time. And so it got to be about 2:05 in the morning, and a buddy was like, hey, it's time to go. Let's order the Uber. So that's what we did. So he ordered the Uber. And as always, I'm always kind of like the first person, like, hey, let's go get to the Uber spot. So I'm kind of leading the charge at this point. And so we say our byes to like the DJ and the bartender, and we get out of there. And like I said, I'm leading charge. We're walking down the sidewalk. And so when you look exactly right outside, as soon as you walk out the door, there's a street there.
Mhm.
So the sidewalk's right there as well, right? So we take a left, and because the Uber was going to pick us up down in this roundabout, it's where the Uber pickup zone is, as I call it. And so we're starting to walk on this sidewalk. And so you got the buildings to your left-hand side, and you have the street to your right-hand side.
Mhm.
Well, I'm talking to my buddy. The rest of everybody else was kind of still straggling behind. They're probably a good 15, 20 feet behind. But I had my buddy that was to the left of me. So I was just looking at him, talking, shooting shits with him. And he's closer to the building or whatever.
Mhm.
And so I'm talking to him, this, that, we're chatting. And before you know it, I hear screeching tires and I see just a flash of light. And so I turn to my right and it looks like this car is about to hit me. And so I'm like, oh gosh, so I pretty much put my arms up to just do what I can because I think this car is coming straight for me.
Oh, wow.
So I get thumped. I get thumped pretty hard, hit the ground. I'm laying on the ground and my adrenaline is going so hard at this point. I don't know kind of what's going on. I knew I had gotten hit, but I didn't know anything at this point. I was like, I'm a tough guy. The leg's burning a little bit. I was like, but I can get up, So I tried to get up, and I couldn't get up, and I was like, And so as I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to rock myself up, it wasn't happening. And so in the background, all I hear is the girls screaming, and the guy is kind of freaking out. And so I was like, okay, it's like something serious happened. And so I was like, all right. At this point, the leg was like on fire, and so I looked down, and there's my leg all in my pants. So I had jeans on, and they're all mangled and bloody. And there's my leg, pretty much almost like flayed open, like a steak would be.
Oh my
And
God.
I see my bone and all of that, everything, like the guts of my leg, and I'm just like, whoo! So I was like, this is a good, because I've been in the military, but I've never seen like combat action. So I've never seen it in person, but I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
I know first aid. I know what shock is, all this stuff. And so I was like, okay, this isn't good. I was like, this is not good. I was like, but I don't want to go into shock. I don't want to pass out, anything like this. So I just found like a star or something, and I just started breathing as deep and as hard as I could and tried to just focus on that and nothing else. So in the meantime, again, there's people screaming, yelling, and so they're all kind of trying to figure out what to do. And at this point, my leg is just like burning. It feels like it's on fire. It feels like there's electric going through it, and so it seems like it takes forever for anything to get there. And so all of a sudden, they say like your life flashes like in front of your eyes, but for me, I was just like bum rushed with thoughts, all these thoughts, because after I saw that leg, I knew how much blood, and I saw how much blood I was losing. I honestly didn't know if I was going to live. I didn't know anything, and so at that point, I was just like wondering, like, hey, like, am I going to see my family again? Am I going to see my mom, my dad? Am I going to see my goddaughters? I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, and then I was like, all these thoughts of things I haven't done in my life. I was like, I haven't did this, and haven't did that. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I just now started running. I'm not going to be able to run ever again. Like this, like, oh my gosh. So I'm thinking of all these things. And it was like, why me at this point, right? That was like probably my deepest moment in all this. Is I was just like, why me? Like, why now? Like, I've did everything the right way my entire life. And so when I say like things like this have no prejudice, they definitely don't. You just never know. And so I'm sitting there at this point, and I'm just getting bum rushed with all these thoughts. And so luckily, two buddies came over to me, and they grabbed my hands. And so they like grabbed them hard. And so they were constantly just talking to me at this point. And so the one guy, he was like, hey, he's like, we're going to need to tourniquet your leg or something.
Oh.
So I was like, yeah. I was like, do it. I was like, it's going to need it or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he takes off his belt. Him and the other guy both take off their belts. And so I'm holding on to one guy's hand, and I was like, do it. Like, you got to do this thing soon. So he puts the belt around my leg, and then, he's like, this is going to hurt. And I was like, I know, but do it. And so he rips on it, and I just felt a jolt. And so he had that on my leg, and they did it a second time with the second one. And I told him, hey, put it nice and high and tight. That's all I remember learning from the military.
Yeah.
So they did that. In the meantime, the cops were sitting across the way, so they seen it happen.
Yeah.
And they were there, but they weren't willing to help out. So that's like a huge disappointing thing. So I guess it's a liability issue up there. And so I can talk into lengths about
It sucks because you
what
feel
they
like
should.
you would do the right thing and they want to probably, but they're probably like, I can't.
Yeah.
It's just so weird, and it's stupid lawyers is really what it is.
Yeah. So it seemed at that point very defeating. And so the guys that were with there trying to help me were like, hey, like, give me your med pack, this and that. And they wouldn't even really give the med pack or anything. And they were like kind of telling people not to help me. But I know what they were kind of thinking.
I'm assuming like they at least called in for a paramedic or something, right?
Yeah.
I would
So they called
certainly hope
someone in,
so.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they called someone in. So again, this is all feeling like it's taken forever. And so with every pulse, you know how you can feel your pulse in your arm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, with every pulse of my heartbeat, it felt like every time my heart would beat, that shock and that like fire would just go out throughout my leg the entire time. So I stayed conscious the entire time.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so
I
I'm
can only
waiting for
imagine the
all of this.
pain. Oh.
Yeah. So they get the ambulance there, and they get me into it. And that's the only part I really don't remember. So they must have shot me with either morphine or
Mm-hmm.
fentanyl or something, because they put me out, thankfully. But the funny thing is, I remember the first thing I told them was like, hey, because they were like, hey, we're going to have to do this or that. And I was like, I'm pretty drunk. That's the only thing I can really think of at the end. That's still because I just knew, like, I just knew, like, if you're drunk, your blood's thinned, and they could. So, but it was like the only
Right.
thought I had. I was like, I'm pretty drunk. And they were like, yeah, we know, and kind of chuckled. So I was like, all right. So then I black out. But to back up just a little bit. So what happened was a drunk driver lost the wheel of a car. And
Mm-hmm.
she slammed into one of those concrete ballards.
Like
So
she lost the
those
steering
poles,
wheel or a wheel.
yeah,
She lost
or
control
passed
of it?
out. Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah.
lost control of it. So she went around the roundabout, and as she was coming down the street, she must have passed out or something. I don't know the exacts, but then she obviously went to the right, and that's when it slammed into one of these concrete ballards, and the concrete all shot off there like shrapnel would, and that's what dislodged off into my leg and ripped my leg apart.
Oh
So
my
the car
God.
ended up never touching me, and so so of course, like, once she did this, the cops came and drove in front of her, and she was trying to like escape, trying to back out, or this or that. And then my friends actually kind of all ran around too,
Mm-hmm.
because they weren't too happy about the situation. But
Yeah.
luckily, the cops were there to kind of keep everybody away. And so moving forward, so they get me into the ambulance. I pass out. The next thing you know, I'm at the hospital. So I'm in the ER, and I wake up, and they're doing the process where they're cutting all my clothes off.
How much time do you
So I'm
think
like, all
you
right,
were out for?
I don't know. So what I do know is, coincidentally, from the place where I was laying down bleeding out to the ER is like 3.1 miles. So
of course it's a 5K.
a 5K, right? So in the future, I was like, I should do that 5K. I should go on the anniversary and do that 5K. But anyhow, so it was about 3 miles. So I don't know how long that would have took them to get there. I mean, it was probably a busy, a club night. So I have no idea. But yeah, when I was in the ER, they're cutting all my clothes off, and I was like, okay, I know what's going on here. Like, I know this wasn't good. We're going to be going back to the OR. And so they're cutting everything off. And they start asking me questions, and I came to it. And so they were asking me all these questions, and I was actually nailing all of them. So I was like pretty proud of myself that, like, within all that, I was able to answer, like, who I am, where I'm from, like who's like, what job do I do? Like, all these things. They were just talking to me to keep me conscious.
Yeah.
And then, they were asking me like, hey, like, who should we call? And I was like, my mom, my dad, here's their numbers. And so I was like pretty proud.
Man, you even gave them phone numbers. That I would have been like,
yeah,
I don't know if I could do that. Oh my gosh.
Right. And so I'm laying on there on the gurney, and they went. So I gave them all the phone numbers. I did all that, and then so they go to gas me, and the trauma surgeon was like, "Hey," she was like, "Your leg was pretty mangled." She's like, "It's really bad. I'm not gonna lie." She's like, "We're not sure if we're gonna be able to save your leg." And I told them, I was like, "Look, don't even care at this point about the leg. I was like, I just want you to keep me alive. I was like, just try your best, fight for me,
Yeah.
and that's all we can. That's all I can ask
What's your
for. I was like, just
condition at
keep me
this
alive.
time? Do they, how they give you, he's stable but critical or critical condition, or, they have all this terminology. Do you know if they gave you a condition or some type of word?
No, no. The only thing I think of was this critical because I remember them asking me like, "Can we give you blood?" This and that because
Right.
they had to give me like a pint or two of blood. So I
They
knew
were
Yeah.
I had
more
lost
worried
a lot of
about your
that.
leg though than your life. They're like, you might lose your leg, but maybe it sounds
Because
like
I think they were assuming like I was gonna be okay, like staying
Oh.
alive or
you were
whatever,
gonna you were
right?
gonna survive, but maybe not your leg.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like because when I was laying down on that cold concrete, I had no idea when I saw it, but once I kind of made it to the ER, I was like, all right. And then they said that, and then my mind, I was thinking it was like, okay, they're just worried about the leg. I'm gonna be fine. But at the same time, I was like, hey, just keep me alive, do your best, and fight for me, and that's all I can ask for. That's all I can
Yeah.
ask for. And I just told him, like the last thing I told him was like, hey, look, like tell my parents, to get here as soon as they can. I was like, tell them I love them. Tell them don't give them too much details. I was like, but just tell them they need to get here soon or whatever. And they
Hmm.
said they'd do it. So then they put me out.
Uh-huh.
That is like the scariest thing for a
God,
parent to hear,
right.
let alone, oh my God, let alone
Yeah,
Yeah.
what you're going through, actually going through it.
yeah. I felt like it was obviously my fault, but I feel still to this day terrible that they had to get that phone call.
Did you
It
have
hurts
the
me.
option of actually calling them yourself, or was that not an option?
No, that wasn't an option.
Mm.
They was just like, "Hey, who do you want us to call this or and I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I call my parents." I'm
Mhm.
still a single guy at this point, and I don't know no one else's phone numbers anyway these days. I barely know my own phone number, So I was like, I just know
Right.
their phone numbers, so call them or whatever. But yeah, to this day, I feel terrible that they had to get that phone call, and I feel bad, but
Well, it's not like
it
it was
is
your
what it
fault
is.
at all. That was in
Yeah,
no way your fault.
Do you know, I
yeah.
want to talk about your parents. Do you know if your mom or dad got the call?
My mom got the phone call first, and she didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to
Mm.
believe it. So
Okay.
she picked up, tried to her, and she got erratic, and pretty much like threw the phone down. Like she wasn't having it because she was like, "Not Jared." Of course, not Jared. Because like I
Mhm.
told you, I've been on the straight and narrow for the majority of my life, but
Mhm.
she was like, "You're gonna have to talk to my husband." So then she gave the phone to my dad, and so my dad finally got like what was going on, and so he was like, "All right, then I guess he must have grabbed her. It was like, grab your stuff. We gotta get to
Yeah.
the hospital or whatever. Which Akron to Cleveland's like a 45-minute drive to an hour, just depending on traffic. So
Were they
it took
sleeping?
them like
Because it was like they
yeah,
must have been
Must
sleeping.
have been, yeah.
yeah. It was probably like 3 something in the morning at this point.
Yeah.
So they
Now,
had to have been.
I don't know if we mentioned it, but family, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have an older brother.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 5 years older than me. But I have a bunch of cousins and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I'm the youngest out of all of my cousins, so
Okay.
I've always been the baby.
That's still so tough to
So,
hear. Like, nobody wants to get that phone call regardless of how many kids you
yeah,
have.
And
That's just a
they
bad phone
probably,
call.
I mean, I grew up I love ER, the TV show ER from the 90s. And there's
Mm.
all those scenes of the parents showing up and they're looking for answers. They don't know where to go. They're asking someone, and someone's like, I don't know. You'd go to this floor, that floor. Like, I
Mm.
can just imagine I can't imagine what's going through their head
yeah,
right there and trying to just get answers. Again, it's 3 a.m. They probably get there at 4. You're probably in the OR for hours and no one's going to tell
yeah.
them anything. They're
Right.
just sitting in an uncomfortable chair in a random hallway in a hospital and no one's telling them anything.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I was
Mm.
in the OR for like 3 or 4 hours. But another thing was the group of people I was with, they ended up going to the hospital. So they
Mhm.
kind of as soon as they got it all together, they drove there. So I'm not sure. I forget. I'm not sure if they saw my parents, met up with my parents. But one of the guys that I just met that night. So that was another big thing about this story was I only knew one person, well, two people, all this 7-person group. And
Yeah.
so the two guys that I always say they helped save my life. They put the tourniquets around me. They were with me the whole time. Those guys, I just met that night. So they just helped out a total stranger. And so
Wow.
they were, I guess, trying to get a hold, trying to figure out who I was as well, trying to get a hold of my mom or dad on Facebook this whole time as
Oh.
well. So they kind of had that all going on, but they all kind of went to the hospital too to kind of check up on me to see what was going on. So yeah, so I woke up. I woke up in the ICU. I knew again I was in a really bad accident. I knew what the lady had told me. So at this point, I knew I was alive. The leg didn't feel too well, and so I
Hmm.
had the morphine uh, controller or whatever. And of course, I was hitting that as much as I could just to go back to bed. But
Yeah.
but like that, before I did that, the first check was like, hey, like, do I have this leg? Like, I don't know, you know? So I kind of
Yeah.
like look down. I kind of like try to move the, the blankets or whatever. And I see my foot down there. So I'm like, phew, like check one, you know, like, okay,
Right.
like move this. All right. Got my leg. And so then I tried moving my toes and I could move my toes. And then I was like, okay, like check two, like, I
Right.
think I'm going to be okay. But I didn't know that like everything between my knee to my ankle was like just destroyed. I had no idea at this point. You know, I was like, okay, I see my foot. I can move my toes. I think I'm okay. And then I kind of glanced around and saw, you know, my parents in there, my friends in there, and I just had a feeling. I was like, I'm gonna be okay. Like this is bad, but I'm gonna be fine. So I
Hmm.
would just try to nod off, you know, when I could and everything like that. So the morning came, and I'm sitting in the ICU, and so I guess the doctors came in and they had told me like, hey, they're like, we were able to, you know, after like a couple hours, we were able to breed your leg of all this concrete, this and that.
Mm.
They're like, but we had to remove your calf muscles. They're like, your calf muscles were completely destroyed, your gastrocs. Just a little bit of anatomy. I'm sure you know you have your gastrocs; those are the big muscles, and down in your lower leg, and then you have the little soleuses that lay behind them, and
Hmm.
those are what connect to your Achilles tendon and everything. So they told me the gastrocs completely taken out, so I don't have those. They said the soleuses and Achilles tendon was completely destroyed, and they said they kept those in there. They had to resew them up, this or that. I forget the exacts, but they said that I have no use. I'll have never have use of any sort of calf muscles. The soleuses that they left in there was just in case I was to keep my leg, it would look like a leg.
Okay.
So I don't have none of that.
So you're missing the gastrus muscle. I'm looking at a
Yeah.
diagram here now. That's
Can
the
you
big
share your screen? I
yeah,
really am like,
yeah. I'll share my screen.
holy
Hold on
shit,
here.
Jared.
All right, here's a bigger picture. Maybe I'm sorry if that's not big enough for you,
Oh,
Erica. But
no, I can see.
actually here's a good one.
Here, let me move my. Okay. Yep.
So this is the I will never pronounce it right, but the gastrus muscle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can see the side view here. But this little
Oh.
thin one is the one they kept just in case you did save your leg so it
Okay.
looks like a leg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this whole big chunky muscle here is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So
Crazy.
yeah, so they told me like, hey, you have no more gastrocs. You pretty much don't have no use of your calf muscles. They're useless at this point. If you keep your leg, it's gonna look like a leg, but you don't have.
So they
So
kept
as you
throwing
would
out
think,
if you keep your leg, though. So they weren't even sure that you were going to still be able to keep your leg at this point.
correct? Yeah, it was it was like a month and a half that we weren't sure if I
Okay.
was keeping it. But so when they're telling me this, it's daunting, right? It's daunting. Like the
Yeah.
first thing was, I don't have calf muscles the rest of my life. I'm 32 years old. I was like, what do you mean? Like
What do you do without a
it's hard for me to
calf
grasp.
muscle?
Right. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like this is extremely daunting. Like I plan to live at least, 50 more years, give or
Yeah.
take, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my gosh, like and so I was like, okay. So I had to like hone back in on what I could really kind of control at this point. So I've always been kind of like really headstrong.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay. I was like, well, it's daunting. I'm like, but I'm alive. I still have this leg.
Yeah.
I was like, we'll just deal with what we have to when we get there. Like it is what it is at this point. So I'm like, all right. So they tell me all that, and again, I had friends all in there. I had them get a hold of people, post things on Facebook and stuff like that. And so at this point, I was like, a little bit better spirits. I knew I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know to exact. And so I had a total of, I think it was like 3 surgeries at that time. So there was a second surgery where they had to go in and clean more stuff out of there. There was still,
Oh, so they couldn't get it all in that first surgery? They had,
yeah,
okay.
they got the majority of it. So they had to go back in and do another, what's called a debridement, which is cleaning it out and just scoping out everything, making sure everything's
Because that's going to
clean.
cause infection if you don't get all that out.
Yeah.
How far out are we from
And
the accident here with the second surgery?
that was like a week.
Okay.
They did 2 within the first week.
Have you been in the hospital the entire time, or were you able to leave and come? Okay, so you've been in the hospital for a week. You didn't go home.
Yeah, so I was in the hospital. They had that second surgery, and at this point, we still don't know if I'm keeping the leg. And then the big concern was there was a big, probably 3 to 4 inch by like 2 inch gap on my leg where you could see my bone. It was completely skinned. That concrete skinned it right in the middle of my shin there. And so and it was still open at this point. They didn't close my leg at this point. So you could see my bone, all that. And of course, the thing is, you do not want to get an infection. If you get an infection, you're for sure losing the leg, possibly your life.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we had to make sure it was cleaned out. I had to get daily bandage changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so with every one of those they would go in there and kind of take the bandages out. And that was, oh my God, that pain, I can't even explain it, how bad it was. It still makes me mad that they would keep me awake while they did it.
Oh
But
my
I mean,
God. I didn't even
it
think
was
of that.
supposed to be a daily thing. And so after like the first 2 days, I was like, I would just did not want to hear those words. They're coming in to do it. So when they would do that, at this point, I still hadn't really looked down at my leg. So my whole mindset was, I'm not going to look at my leg because I'm going through all this stuff. And in my mind, it's going to make my pain worse when I see it. I wasn't scared to really see it. I had already saw it that first time. And again, I'm kind of I'm in the military. Those sites don't. So it wasn't that I was scared to look at it. It was, I didn't want to look at it and then cause more pain in my head, like when they were doing the bandage changes and stuff. So when they would do the bandage changes, my dad would be on my right hand side, and so I'd just be gripping his hand just as hard as I could, and so I'd be looking up at him, and I swear this dude must have the best poker face of all time, because I couldn't tell how bad my leg was, especially after seeing pictures like now of it and what he was looking at. I can't believe he had such a poker face. But yeah, when they would change that, it was like a lightning rod was just stuck in my leg, and like lightning was just going throughout my leg, and it was the most excruciating pain. And to more of that, I was on like 30 milligrams of Percocet. That would put a lot of people to sleep. And so I was getting that like every 4 hours because of my pain. And so I would have that, and they'd come in with my emergency med, my Dilaudid, and they would do all that like 5 minutes before the bandage changes.
And that still wasn't enough?
Still wouldn't even touch it. And so after about a week of them doing that, they finally started putting me out, like just a little twilight sleep to do those bandage changes. And I'm like, thank you.
That's a humane thing to do than making you endure that. That's just, I can't believe that.
Erica, are you good with pictures? Like if I show you them.
Yeah. Are you going to show me his Instagram? Because I did actually look at those before.
Okay. So
viewer discretion advised.
Well, everyone who's listening.
You even have to do that.
Yeah, everyone who's listening, you can go to Jared's Instagram at jrod4513 to see these photos. Here is the photo of his leg.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And you could see that you could see the bone there. And like I said, that's almost pretty much what I saw originally when I was laying down on that concrete, except, I still had the pant legs. But
so
I saw that
was this taken like right after that first surgery, or what? At what point was this picture taken? Like how much time went by?
This is like day 2 or day 3. So, because this was during a bandage change. And so we were trying to document everything.
You have no skin.
Well, it's just a hole.
Oh my God.
I mean, is that skin pulled? Is that skin pulled back? Well, here's the bandage.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about why the bandage change was so painful. Was it removing it, the whole process, maybe reapplying it? Was it just the part where you have
sticking to all of the
So yeah, so
Nerve endings.
they would squirt stuff in there too, right? Like
Oh
they would
no.
squirt saline solution.
That's
So
Ugh,
every time that's hitting what there's so many busted up nerves and stuff in there. So
yeah.
it was just
Oh
lighting up my
God.
leg like a Christmas tree. Um,
Oh,
yeah, that picture before that was from I think like just a day they tried to have me sit up in the bed, and you could see how swollen like my leg was.
mhm.
Yeah,
maybe
right
it's
there, how
massive.
massive.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all bandage and stuff like that. And I mean, I right there was probably about to pass out, and that was rough.
I
Like
mean,
that
you
was
know
like
what you
just
look
a
like? You
goal.
look like your face. You look like someone who's had way too much to drink, and
Yeah,
like
It must be all
almost
the
like a ghost. Like there's like a
medications and
yeah,
stuff,
no, it's
right?
it's
yellowish.
definitely the meds,
Yeah,
Retaining
but
some
yeah,
water and oh my
yeah.
gosh.
yeah.
Um, man, there are some pictures here. You guys will have to do some digging, like scrolling through them. But you also have
Yeah.
a bunch of friends who come and got a smile on your face for a ton. It looks like you're eating pizza. Another one here, you're eating a steak. The steak kind of looks like your leg. Um,
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
that kind of
that's the
gives it
bone right
away.
there.
You you had a picture where you're all
Jeffrey
wearing
Dahmer is
Santa
from Akron,
hats.
but I'm saying that's not me. So yeah,
So
I was blessed to have people come visit me like every day.
Is
I
that your
was
that's
so
dad?
good to
blessed.
have them on your
Yeah,
side.
That's
Oh.
my dad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So this kind of ruins it. All of the pictures that you were just showing had you with like Santa hats. So you were in there for like almost a month, right? At least because it's
I
a
was at
December 7th
yeah.
and then
So
at least
I was
Christmas
at
and
Metro Health, the hospital, for 6 weeks.
That's
oh
you getting your
So
wow.
Christmas gift there.
And so just think of like, we're all active people right now, right? We're all very active. Just
Yeah.
imagine not being able to be active for 6 weeks. I mean, I had
Ugh,
the worst cabin fever in there, and there was
I don't
nothing I could do
blame
about it.
you.
There was nothing I could do. I couldn't. The leg wasn't even closed up at the time, even when I left there. So I was in the hospital 6 weeks. Then they moved me to a nursing home for 4 weeks, and then after
Wow.
that, I lived in a friend's living room for 8 weeks because I was still having weekly procedures done with my leg, and I still uh, needed. My job was in Columbus, but obviously I wasn't doing that. But I couldn't
Yeah.
live in Columbus and continue to drive up to Cleveland once a week, 2.5 hours.
Hmm.
So
Right.
luckily, again, I was blessed to have friends that let me live with them in their living room for like 8 weeks after the majority of the stays in the hospitals and
So
stuff.
what does that add up to? That's 18 weeks that you were like having procedures
Six,
and just
yeah,
can't be
18 weeks.
home. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Well,
So,
yeah. So if you have another question, you can. I'll say
well,
I can go
we
back
talked
and
about the first two surgeries. I don't think we really highlighted the
We
third
skipped ahead
yet.
a little bit.
But I found
yeah,
a
all
post
good.
before the third where your mom wrote a post about how the surgery did not go well, and you made a
Yeah.
whole post here. But I'll let you tell us the story about the third
Yeah,
surgery.
so the third surgery, it was going to happen like 2 or 3 days after Christmas.
Hmm.
And at this point, again, we had that bone exposure, right? So we had to get that bone covered. So
Yeah.
they wanted to do what's called a muscle flap surgery. So what they want to do is take a muscle from a part of my lat muscle. So like your lat is that huge muscle on the side right here.
Okay.
And so what they want to do is they wanted to take not the whole thing, just a chunk of it, and they wanted to put it down over the bone and hook it up to like a good blood supply and stuff down there. And once it would take, then they do a skin graft it all over. We got something because you don't want to just put skin over that bone that's exposed, right? You'd have that
Yeah.
huge air
There's no
gap and stuff,
padding or anything. Like
right?
just have well, not
So
exposed bone, but yeah.
Do you want to see
yeah,
pictures?
so that muscle flap surgery. I was not a big fan of having it. I just didn't like the idea of them taking a muscle away from me and this and that. I was just super nervous. They told me it was a 6 hour procedure. And so
This
I just wasn't looking
Wow.
forward to it.
this
And
is
so
Yeah.
not
finally,
Jared's leg, but it is
yeah,
pictures of the
no,
surgery
Yeah.
and how it works. Yeah.
yep.
Wow.
So so once they kind of talked me into that, I'm like, yeah, it is my best option. Because I did ask, I was like, is there anything synthetic or something that we can put down there?
Mm-hmm.
I
And
was
they said,
thinking
well,
like a
there's
cadaver or like
so they said there were synthetic materials there, but that it wasn't the best option. They said that
oh,
because those things are kind of more so for burn patients, not for bone for on top of bone. So
Mm-hmm.
they said they didn't really think that was my best option, that the muscle flap was. So I said,
Okay.
okay, these doctors are smarter than me. I signed off on it. I was like, all right, let's do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into the OR. It was supposed to be a 6-hour procedure. So of course they start me nice and early at like 8 a.m. And so when I woke up, it was like nighttime, and I just had an eerie feeling,
Mm-hmm.
like
Oh
something didn't go
no.
right. I was like, because it should be daylight out. I was like, but it's nighttime, and I just had an eerie feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got sick. That was the only surgery I lost my stomach and kind of got sick afterwards.
Yeah.
So I was in the OR for 14 hours. So they tried to, so
Oh
they got the
no.
muscle. Yeah, they got the muscle down there, and it wouldn't take to my leg, meaning they tried to hook it up to the blood supply, the arteries and stuff in my leg, and it would give in for a little bit and then it would
Mm-hmm.
cut out. And so come to find out, my blood supply, my capillaries and stuff in my leg were too damaged from the accident. But there was really no way of telling. They had given me what's called an angioplasty,
Mm-hmm.
where they stick like ink into like they had to go through my groin. That was a whole nother procedure where they had to go
God.
through my groin to tighten it, because they were going to push ink through there to see which veins and arteries are there, what's
Yeah.
working, can they do this procedure right. And that was a tough procedure to have. I was not a fan of it. I mean, it
Mm.
kind of makes you feel like you're peeing yourself every time. And then the last like push, it was just like my stomach was like hurting. It just wasn't a good feeling.
Oh.
So, but according to that, it looked like everything was fine down there. So moving to that surgery, it wouldn't work. And what they said was, sometimes in like crush injuries, like if a vein or an artery gets smashed, they said that it will quit working. What they said was,
Oh.
you can't tell. So like blood will flow through it if you're constantly pushing, but they're not going to work on their own.
Oh.
So that's what ended up happening, was that blood supply was damaged down there. So they would have never known that beforehand. So I don't blame anybody or anything like that. But yeah, so they tried to hook it up 4 different times. I mean, I'm so thankful for the doctors that were on their feet for like 14 hours trying to make this work, and then
Mm-hmm.
just win it. And so when I woke up and I had this eerie feeling, the parents came and saw me, and they're like, "Hey, we don't got, it's not good news." And so that was another time I was like, I cried for like a couple minutes, but then after that, I was like, again, what's this crying gonna do? It ain't gonna do nothing. We got to focus on, like, we got to move forward and focus. So I was like, all right, I'm done with this crying stuff. And they had told me that like the surgeons were quite upset, like
Mm-hmm.
that they like were having a hard time dealing with it too. And
Yeah.
so then that made me feel like not better, but just like more like, hey, like they really tried and tried. So I saw the next day, the doctor came in and saw me and blamed me. He kind of looked like, like a little boy that lost his puppy. And I was just like, man, like this dude's going through something, right? And so
Yeah.
this point, I don't even care about myself. So I was like, hey, man, and I just let him know. I was like, look, I was like, thank you so much. I was like, do not worry about this. I'm like, if there's anything you can learn from it, take it, move forward. I was like, but other than that, I was like, I just appreciate you so much, you and the guys, for being on your feet 14 hours, for really working your butt off and trying to do this and fighting for me. You were fighting for me, and
Yeah.
that's all I can
These
ask. So I was
doctors
like,
have been on your side for so long at this point, because it's been a few weeks that you've been in the hospital.
yeah,
They want to see
yep,
you get better and do everything they can to help you. So I can see how they would be so crushed by this, because what they thought would work wasn't going to, and they have to reassess to get you hopefully keeping the leg.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so after that, they told me like, hey, there's only a couple more procedure. Like, we still need to like get coverage down there. Yeah, but they were like, but we did put some. So they ended up putting synthetic. When that didn't work, they put some synthetic material down
Oh,
there.
they did.
Just
Okay.
as a last ditch effort. They were like, hey, let's put something down there just to cover it. So they
Yeah.
told me, hey, we put this material in there. It's not supposed to work. They're like, so we have to start looking forward to our next options. And I was like,
Oh.
okay. And they were like, well, there's only like two options. The one option is, hey, let's have another procedure where we take a muscle from your thigh, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
just take a good vein from one of your other legs,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll prop that down in that leg
Oh.
and try to connect that all up, right? They're like, the only other option is amputation. And so like I really slept on it, I prayed on it, and to be honest, I had told him, like, I was like, hey, look, like I appreciate all that. I was like, but I think if anything, I'm gonna go with an amputation. I was like, I don't want no more surgeries where you're taking any more muscles from me, veins. I'm like, if I was like, I need this leg, this good leg to be a good leg. I can't. I was like, if I amputate, like then and you ended up taking veins and muscles from my leg. I want to
Mm-hmm.
have that leg to be as best I can. So I was like, and I had seen so many positive stories of amputees and stuff, and I
Yeah.
just know how I am. And so I was like, I'm just going to amputate. And he kind of like was like dumbfounded, and he's like, well, you have to do this every so often. And I was like,
Well,
yeah,
now,
but you don't really know me. I'm going to be fine or whatever. So at that
Yeah.
point, I thought I was going to be amputating, and so I was like looking into like the hospital in San Diego, which is a good military hospital, and other places to kind of go.
so let me ask you, if you did this surgery that you're debating between this other surgery or operation or amputation, if that surgery didn't go well, would an amputation still be on the table, or would it not be as good as what it could have been because they would be messing with blood vessels, veins, muscles?
I think that if it ended up not working, then that was my fear, right? Was like, well, if it doesn't work and then we amputate, the amputation would have been its own surgery in itself.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that really wouldn't have had anything to do with it. But my mind was, okay, if that doesn't work and then we amputate, well, now I have a leg that's kind of missing some stuff here. So I'd rather
Yeah.
have that. I'd rather have that good leg just be 100%. And I was like, and then again,
That's
I'll
right.
just no
Okay.
surgery there. We'll amputate, and I'll have one really good leg, and we'll have the
But,
amputated leg or whatever, and we'll just move forward from there.
but you said he seemed dumbfounded, so I'm guessing you went
Well, I
with
feel like not a lot of people would want to just be like, yeah, just take
no.
it.
I totally
Yeah,
get where
yeah,
Jared's coming from. I don't get
Yeah.
where you're coming from. I
No, I
never had this, but
yeah,
you're probably just like, you know what? I see the writing on the wall. Let's do it and start the recovery and get better, because I read another post I'll ask, but you're like, maybe I'll be a Paralympian or something. Like you were trying
yeah.
to be optimistic about things too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at this point, that's kind of where my head was. But they were like, hey, in a week or two, we're going to check to see how that synthetic material is doing. So this is kind of where like the story is going to change, right? So
okay.
at this point, I was like, all right, I got this material in my leg. And my degree at Ohio State was in nutrition. I have a degree in nutrition. So I was like, okay, I'm using my nutrition background now. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
know how kind of not good these hospital food is and stuff. So I was like, I told him to kind of drop my pain meds because I wasn't hungry all the time. So they dropped my pain meds, and I was like, I'll suck it up because I need to eat. So then I started having like friends and stuff when they'd come visit me, bring me pizza, bring me like Burger King, all this
I
food
saw
that it
those
really wasn't
pictures.
even good
Yeah.
for you, right?
Yep.
But I was like, when you're in that situation, you need protein and you need calories to heal because your body is in such a heal state that your
Yeah.
your calories are burning. So if I was just going to eat the minimum, I feel like if I ate the minimum of just the hospital food,
Mhm.
I don't know if I don't think I'd have that leg. But I had my dad bringing me in muscle milks. I mean, I was going hard on all the
Yeah.
protein, all this food, and just eating it, eating it, eating it. So fast forward like 3 weeks, they checked the leg out, and my doctor's eyes are like huge, like he doesn't believe it. And so this synthetic material was actually taking to my leg, and it was working. And so
Yes.
he was like, I've never even seen this before. This wasn't supposed to be working.
That's
And
because
I
you're the
was
only one
like,
who had that knowledge.
It's why they call it.
Like that's
right.
It's why they
yeah.
say we practice medicine. They're practicing all the
Yeah.
time.
Right.
It's not easy.
So yeah, so it was working. And so at this point, now we really still wasn't for sure keeping the leg or not. We
Mm-hmm.
knew now we had a better possibility at keeping the leg though. So then we had like a round table. I call them like my round table nights, but they were all surgeons. There was a physical therapy doctor, there was like a trauma surgeon, there was like an orthopedist, there was all these people in there. And
Yeah.
they were kind of just giving me my options, which really, again, at this point, it was still the same options. But the physical therapist doctor was like, hey, let's check your foot out to see what it can do or whatever.
Mhm.
And so, I could curl my toes and kind of barely move that foot, almost like your hammer curling so hard that you can kind of move the foot. But he thought that there was a good possibility of keeping my leg and having some sort of life with it. But he's like, you can keep it, He's like, but we can't guarantee anything. We have no idea how it's going to go in the future. And so then I had doctors saying, hey, if you amputate, we've seen that you're a runner. That if you amputate and get a prosthetic, you'll be running in no time. You'll be active. And I was like, great, sure. Like, yes, I know. Like, you ain't got to tell me twice.
I'm
But
already
then,
thinking about it. Let's go.
yeah. And so then the other doctors were like, well, you can keep your leg. We're not too sure what it will be. They're like, but if you keep your leg, you're never going to be running marathons again. Just, you can, you won't be doing that, but we're not sure. You can still live with it. And so at this point, I was very naive at the time. Again, I thought the doctors knew quite everything. And so at that point, I didn't take that as any sort of challenge. I was naive. I believed what they said. So when they were like, hey, if you keep your leg, you're never running marathons again. And I was like, Roger that. And I was like, at this point, I ran 4. Some people can't even say they've ran 1. And I was like, and at this point, I was like, I don't even like running. I was like, I just run for like the challenge, So I was like, if I don't run another marathon in my life, so be it. Like that's not. There's bigger things in this world than running a marathon. I was like, so I don't even care, right? And so that was so by doing that, that was off the table too, as far as like having to like worry about anything. So at this point, I'm just thinking, hey, like, do I keep it, not keep it? And believe me, and no one was like kind of leaning anyway. I felt like everyone was kind of leaning towards, yeah, let's just start the recovery process early. Let's amputate, get the show on the road. Well, the way I thought about it was, if I amputate, I'll be wondering my whole life, what if I would have kept the leg? What could I have done with this leg?
Yeah.
I was like, what? I was like, if I keep the leg, I could always amputate in the future if I don't like it. If life gets hard or it's not going well, I can always amputate
Yeah,
it.
you can't grow
You're
your
right
leg
about
back,
that.
but
You
you could cut
can't.
it off
Yeah, you
later.
can't do it the opposite way.
Yeah. So to me, that was almost like a no-brainer.
Okay.
I was like, well, let's keep this leg and let's really see what we can do with this leg. So I've always had that same mind. So we're moving forward now. So boom, we're keeping the leg. All's good. I had at this point, they're like, once they figured that out, they had to move me out of the hospital into the nursing home. So I moved into a nursing home because the insurance pretty much kicked me out the hospital. They saw my physical therapy stuff and they're like, you're doing well enough. We're not paying for that no more. And so I was like, all right, let's go to a nursing home, which is the funny thing is, nursing home, I'm 32 years old. Everybody else is probably 70 and older, right? Yeah. So I was like a rock star in this place. Like,
they must have loved you
all
over there.
all they're all trying to talk to me, give me all this wisdom. I'm soaking it in, all the old ladies are just like, I mean,
why a nursing home then? Am I picturing a nursing home? I thought it was for old people. Like, why are they sending you to a nursing home?
So, because at this point, I still needed rehabilitation. So I still actually had an open wound as well. So that where the bone was, where they had put the synthetic material, I was still needing more surgeries to pack it in more. So it was but I had to get more weekly procedures to pack more synthetic material in there. So I needed to be more in a hospital setting, but not at the hospital. And I was having daily, again, like at this point, a lot of my leg was skin grafted. So it needed like a lot of care just by nurses and stuff that I wasn't going to get if I went home or anything like that. So it was a nursing home and rehabilitation center.
Okay.
But it was pretty much, like you said, it's pretty much all, older people.
But they have the resources there, which is what you still needed.
Yeah.
So,
And again, I felt like a rock star in there. I mean, the nurses,
I guess ladies.
someone told me the nurses were like fighting on who would bring me in my tray. And I was like, hey,
loved you, the staff, the other patients, the people. I just bet you like some of these old guys would come and tell you some of the greatest stories of their life.
When I'd go to breakfast and lunch, they would sit around me and just tell me. And I'm just soaking it all in, just listening to it. And so when I was there,
that's a podcast idea, Erica. Stories from the nursing home. Just go to nursing homes and put a mic in front of these people and hear their stories.
That could be a cool idea, actually.
Yeah, it's not bad. So the nursing home, I was there for a total of 4 weeks. But again, after like the first week, so I would go to physical therapy time and occupational therapy. And so I would just at first, like, because they weren't sure. So they get me, push me in the wheelchair. And I'm like, I can do this. But they're like, no, we want to make sure we get you there. And so, like for the first week, I listened to them. We're doing all the physical therapy stuff, and I'm fine. I'm crushing the physical therapy, occupational therapy stuff.
Yeah.
And so, what's funny is like we got into like week 2. Now I'm like, I know my routine here at the nursing home, and so like I'll stroll down and I'm saying hi to people, going to places, but they let me start like just wheelchairing to the physical therapy room. So I'd get into that physical therapy room and they'd give me these exercises and then I would just start doing them. And I was like, well, I'm going to start doing more because I hate doing the minimum. And I was like, and I have all these upper body muscles I need to work out. And so they were like, the joke was they're like, oh, there's Jared again. He's going to be teaching the class because I would just start kind of doing it all on my own. And of course, some of the other older people in there were like asking me stuff to do. And so I'm like giving away like exercises and stuff. Again, like it was a great time. And like
You got to earn your keep, man.
yeah, after 4 weeks, they were like, again, they're like, we tried our best. They're like, we're charting the minimum for you to keep you here. Cause I was like, I don't really have no place to go. I was like, I don't have no place to go. And they were like, cause they enjoyed me. So they're like, we're going to put the minimum in here to try to keep you there. But then after like a month, insurance is like, nope, he's doing too well. So
Friggin'
again, kicked me out of,
insurance.
yeah. Still I had this gap in my leg that wasn't closed up yet, right? So I was like, okay. I was like, I can't go live in Columbus because that'd be 2.5 hours from the hospital in Cleveland, where I was still going weekly. And so, luckily enough, I was blessed to have one of my best friends allow me to live in his like second bedroom, and that's where I had my goddaughters as well. And at that time, they were like 3 and 5 years old. So I was living in the extra living room. They brought down me a bed and all of that. So I just made that my own little room there. And yeah, like the goddaughters absolutely loved it. They'd come see me. And I'd play like video games and stuff with them. But when I was there, that's when this whole thing changed for like even more so was I knew there was a YMCA nearby. So I had an in-home physical therapist came one day, show me some stuff. And I did it, but then after that, I was like, okay, I'm not sitting in this home. There's a YMCA nearby. I was like, and I have all these other limbs and muscles to work out. I'm not just going to just not do anything because I have a bad leg.
Yeah.
I was like, so I got myself a pass to the Y. And by this time, I weaned myself off all the pain meds and stuff. So I really wasn't needing, so I could drive. So I drove myself to the Y
You
every
drove
day.
yourself? Holy shit.
Yeah, because I still had my driving leg, which is the good leg. So I was like, but I still had my old people crutches, right? And not my crutches, but my walker.
The walker,
so
yeah.
I would like walk into the YMCA like this, just like hobbling, and I would just get to a machine. I used nothing but the machines. I'd start working out this and that, and I was just making sure I was getting my good pump to all my other muscles. But in the meantime, I would get on the bike or something just to move the leg, just to get it going, just to get it working or whatever. And so I did this every day. In the meantime, I finally had my last surgery. It was a skin graft that closed my leg up completely. So then I just continued with this process, right? And the physical therapist in home came like a week later, and he was like, "You don't need me." I was like, "Yeah, I don't think so."
Yeah.
And so kind of checked the books. There was an in-home nurse that would still come and bandage changes and clean me and stuff like that, which was good.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was pretty able to do everything myself. And so eventually I was like, hey, this bike is enough. I'm gonna get on this. I'm gonna get on the treadmill. And so I was like, let's just do like a quarter mile on the treadmill or something. I don't need to do nothing too crazy. And so then I would walk like a quarter mile. I was like, all right, that's it. Got off. The next day, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go, a third of a mile, 0.33. So I just literally just baby stepped it up, right?
So
yeah.
you said you were off the pain meds at this point. Were you experiencing any pain? Like, was it really hard to do that quarter mile and the third mile? So
yeah,
how did you break through that? Like, was it just using the muscles more? Well, using your leg more? Like, talk to us about that a little bit. How you broke through?
Yeah. So really, like the majority of my pain and my stuff would come at nighttime when I'd be in bed. So when I was during the daytime, sure there was pains there. I'd get tingles. There was a lot of tingling because I had a lot of nerve damage. That was probably like the worst of it. So at a certain point, like my pain from just like stepping on the leg and stuff really wasn't there at some point because of the physical therapy and stuff I was doing in the nursing home and in the hospital, but
Mhm.
I had really bad nerve damage. I'm talking about like tingling, burning, stinging, all this. But
Ah.
really, it came on mostly at nighttime. And what I would notice is during the daytime, if I was moving it or something, I really didn't feel anything at that point. And between my ankle to my leg, I tell you, I don't have much feeling to this day down there, just because the
Mhm.
nerves are so shot and just
Right.
non-existent. Even they had to take nerves out. So when I'd be on that treadmill, I didn't really have any sort of pain at that time, besides like the tingling and stuff like that. And so that really allowed me to kind of just really kind of just do a little bit more and more on that treadmill. And then I would also get on the stair stepper. And I just knew if I took it nice and slow, and just go for like 2 minutes, then hop up, then get off of there, that was it. So I really didn't have no ultimate goal this time to like do
Mhm.
anything crazy. It was literally just, as they say, get stronger each day, get stronger
Yeah.
each day. So that was like in the back of my mind, like, and that's all we're going to do. And, baby steps before anything.
Mhm.
And so I literally would take that. I'd get on the tread. I'd do my entire upper body workout stuff. This was like a daily routine, and then I'd get on the treadmill at the end and the stair stepper. But every day, I just did a little bit more on that treadmill, do a little bit more, and I got up to like a mile, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I can walk a mile. This is
Mhm.
awesome. So then I was like, hey, maybe around that time, I was like, hey, let's see if I can walk a mile and maybe jog like a point 0.1 mile or something like that. And so then I started in doing like a nice walk jog routine again. And at this point, I still really wasn't into running. So I didn't even realize there was a walk jog routine. So I kind of like
Okay.
I thought I came up with all this on my own. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this walk
You
jog
did
thing, I
it.
can
You're
just
the
do this.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the one. You're a genius.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
ask. I'm going to ask the tough question here that I've been thinking of for a little while. I know everyone's been
Yeah.
thinking
Go ahead.
about it. What was it like taking a shower?
Oh.
Taking a shower was tough, right? So I would have to sit down and at first, first when I was like in the hospital and in the nursing home, it was all bats in a bag, they call rags. That's how
Oh.
they would clean me, right? And so luckily my dad was there like every day, like, oh my god, that dude's my rock. He was there every day. So I was blessed enough, I really didn't have to ask nurses, so I didn't really have to go through that embarrassment of like having somebody wash me in all the private areas and stuff. I
Yeah.
would have, if that's what
Depends
I
who the
needed to
nurse
do,
is.
like, yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
uh,
Yep.
Offering
yeah
a lecture in the
so
nurse's outfit is fine with me. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I
so
had
Go
to
on.
do
Go
it's
on.
just funny.
yeah.
It's just
So
a
the
funny
shower thing,
story for after. Remind
yeah.
me about the hot nurse story.
Okay. So like the shower thing really didn't become an issue, man, until I even got to like my friend's house, and then it was like would have to sit down in the shower and this like that. But by that time, I could kind of do everything.
Mhm.
I was told I just couldn't really like wipe down my leg that much, so I kind of would just let the water trickle down or whatever. But I had to stay sitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, So yeah, but to go back with that, Eric, it's even funnier is something you don't think about is someone that's active and drinking a lot of water every day and eating every day.
He's a lot.
Let's just say I went about 4 or 5 days, and there was something I realized I had it done for 4 or 5 days
Oh
because
no.
I had a bladder thing where I was going pee. I didn't go poop for 4 or 5 days, so my mind is this is going to be rough. This
Oh
is going to be rough
no.
because like four
Right.
or 5 days without going, and like everything that they tell you to do to help you, I couldn't do. I couldn't exercise. I couldn't even get out of bed.
Oh.
I was laying down. And then these pain meds, I don't know if you know, but pain meds like dry you out.
So
So
even
it's
with
like,
the
and I was
amount of
going
water you were
heavy.
drinking, it was still not helping
Yeah, the pain
enough.
meds
Okay.
were drying me out, right? So
Oh.
that first time, man. I mean, once I realized that, I was like, "Oh, why didn't the nurses start me on like X-Lax and all this stuff?" So I was like, "Yo, you guys got to start giving me fluids. You got to start
Yes.
giving me all these things." I was like, "Because I'm going to have to go, and it's going to be bad." And I'll
I feel
tell you
like
what, man.
that happened to Tara. She
Hmm.
had a hard
Yeah,
time after her back surgery.
Yeah, she's
and I'll
bloated for a
tell you
while,
what.
Oh
right? Like just
no.
yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
for you guys. I really do.
So try laying down and trying this, right? Bedpan. So my dad had to put this bedpan under, like force it under me. So I'm laying on this rock of a bedpan, And of course, like when I'm sitting, yeah, I rock back and forth sometimes if it's
Yeah,
tough.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
so I had to lay down, and so that was a really bad experience. That like that a lot of people don't get this story because you don't think about the little things,
No.
but that became a really big thing. But then after that first time, I was like, yo, we're keeping this regimen of giving me all this X-Lax and stuff every day, and then I was fine moving forward. But that,
Dude,
yeah,
the
that
first
was way
the
worse than
first
worrying about
one
a
is
shower.
always like,
You
oh, I
know,
feel for
It's
you,
like
man.
pushing a brick out.
your dad's a great guy. I know you said how you
Yeah.
didn't want to bother the nurses, but I don't think I could have my dad help me take a shit.
Yeah. Well,
I would just, I don't know.
I,
He's a great guy.
I feel like at
yeah,
that point I would get anybody to help me
that's
take
my
a
guy at
shit.
this point. So
Just help me.
I owe him. I kind of owe him now. So here in
Yeah.
these future years, I can't complain. I
Yeah,
can't complain.
man.
Uh, so yeah, so we'll go back. We're going back to the. I'm on the treadmill, right? So
Yeah.
I was just doing this, just trying to do a little bit more on the treadmill each day, to be honest. And I started a walk jog routine. And then eventually I got up to like 3 miles and I was like, yo, I could do like a 5K technically, you know? So I was like, this is cool. So then I knew I was kind of cooking with some oil here.
Yeah.
By no means did I think I could do anything like crazy. But again, I was like, well, I know I can at least do 3 miles. And so once I got up to like a 3 mile mark, then it had been like April. So it had been like 4 months.
Okay.
And then the doctor was finally like, hey, you can go back to work in Columbus finally. So I got out of my buddy's house, got down there. And so I was still in my active duty guard job. And so they were pretty cool about it. They were like, hey, just go to the gym or do your physical therapy 4 hours in the morning, then just come and work half a day. And so
Mhm.
that really allowed me to really get in better shape too, because I went to Ohio State's recreational facility. I got a pass there. And I would go there every morning for like 3 hours. I would do my full routine. I would take my time. I would get on the treadmill, the stair stepper, get on the bike, and I would just do that. And again, every day I'd get farther and farther on that treadmill up. I could get up to like 6 miles. Again, it was still a walk jog routine.
Mhm.
And so by this time, I think it was like Memorial Day came around, and I was like, hey, I want to go do this 5K. It was like I forget what kind of 5K it was, but
Like
it's
just
Memorial
6
Day
months
weekend.
later.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
they had told me at one point that like I wasn't going to even walk until like February, and I wasn't even going to be able to walk or jog for like 6 months or something like that. And so I was
Yeah.
like really like just beating everything fairly quick. But that's all because I wasn't doing the minimum. I was doing a little bit more
Above
every
and
time.
beyond.
That's what you have to do if you really want to heal faster or
Mhm.
come back faster. Know your body, but also you got to do more than the minimum. They give you a minimum for a reason because the majority of people, that's all they're going to do. But if you
Yeah.
do more, you're going to come back faster. And I've always known that. I've always wanted to come back faster so I could do my job, so I could get back to my life as fast as
Yeah, you
possible.
have that motivation behind you, so that's going to spur
Yeah.
you forward.
So I was able to do that 5K, and I was actually able to jog the entire thing. It took me an
Okay.
awful long time, but I was jogging it because at that point I could walk jog the 6 miles. So I was able to run the whole uh, uh, 5K, and so I was pretty proud of myself. And so at this point, we got to like June. I still had the same routine. So in the middle of July is finally when work was like, hey, like we'll clear you to do the full time job again or whatever. So I
Gotcha.
had a buddy that wanted to do the Air Force Marathon. He didn't want to do the marathon though. He wanted to do the 10K. This was like in September.
Mhm.
So 9 months after my accident, I did this 10K with him at the Air Force Marathon, and it went good. He's like, we'll just do whatever you want to do. I was like, all right, we're gonna do this walk jog routine.
Yep.
So I'd walk a quarter mile, I would jog the rest of the mile. I'd walk a quarter mile, jog the rest of the mile, and I did that for the 6.2 miles, completed it. And again, I was pretty proud of myself. And then that's when I knew I really like I could do something with this. I was like, if I
Yeah.
just keep this walk jog routine going and just go a little bit farther each day, I was like, who knows like what's my real limit, you
Yeah.
know? So coming up in October was going to be the Columbus Marathon, which I had did twice already. It was like a favorite of mine.
Is this the
Yeah.
And
nationwide
so that
one?
was
The one for like the nationwide
yes.
hospital? Yeah. Yeah, we know it.
Didn't
Yeah, it's
Patrick
one
just
of my
did the half, right?
Yeah.
I think he just did the half
And
with
they
all
have
the
all the
kids.
yeah,
kids out there. You can high five and everything. Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's an
yeah,
awesome
that's an awesome
marathon.
yeah. Yeah, it's one of my favorites, especially you go through Ohio State's campus, and so it brings back a lot of nostalgia for me. So it's one
Mm,
of my favorites. But
awesome.
so yeah, so I signed up for. I was like, I'm gonna sign up for the half marathon because I know I can at least do a 10K.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right. So the plan was to do 3 or 4 miles, like maybe once or twice a week on the treadmill, and then every Saturday I was gonna go out and do my long run. And
Yeah.
so I just went. It was like, hey, this week I'm gonna do 8 miles. The next week I'll do 9 miles, and I worked it out to where the week before the marathon I was going to get up to 13 miles because I didn't want to show up to the marathon and not be able to do the half marathon. I signed up for a half marathon and I was like, I got to see if I can even do it. I want to make sure so I don't go out there like a fool or something. And so I got up to the week before and I did my own half marathon on my own.
Mhm.
So walk jog routine out in
Nice.
one of these parks.
Look at
Super
you
proud of
go.
myself.
Hmm.
And what was awesome at this point too was every new distance was a new PR because I called it my post accident PR.
Yep.
So it was like every time I went out there, if I could go a little bit farther, it's a new PR. So I was like, let's see. And
Absolutely.
again, I had no idea how far I could go. So once I did that, I was like, okay. I was like, I'm gonna be okay to do this half marathon. But then this crazy idea came and it was like, dude, well, you did 13.
No.
Maybe you can do 14. Maybe you can do
Yep.
15, right? So I was like, okay. So then I had changed my bibs over to the full marathon. And so I was like, I'm just gonna see what I can do. And so the morning showed up. I had two buddies that were gonna do the half marathon with me.
Hmm.
And I told them the same thing. I was like, we're gonna see how this goes. I was like, if I'm feeling like if I can't do no farther, we'll do the half marathon and I'll just get off. Don't really care about the medal or anything like that. I was like, but if I feel good, I'm just gonna keep going and see how far I can go. We'll see where this limit is. And so that's what I did. So we did a nice walk jog, that same routine, walk a quarter mile, jog the rest of the mile. And so I did that. And so we get up to mile 12 and I was feeling good. And my buddies looked at me and they were like, "Hey, how you feeling?" And I was like, "I'm feeling good." I was like, "I think I can go a little bit farther." And
Hmm.
they looked at me like I was crazy. So we get to the point where like it splits off like a
Yep.
fork, what's one way, and I just gave them both a big hug, and they were like, we're not going with you. Like we're not going no farther
Okay.
with you.
Yep. You're
We
on your
we
own,
did we
buddy.
did our we did our half marathon. You're crazy. You go do your good luck, and we'll see you afterwards. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. So then I had my phone. I texted my parents, and I was like, because they was there. So I was like, hey,
Letting them
I was
know,
like,
hey, I'm in it for the
yeah,
long haul. Here we go.
yeah. I
Hmm.
was like, I'm gonna try to go a little bit farther, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, I may need you to pick me up at mile 15 or
Hmm.
16. I don't know. I was like, but just keep your phone handy, and we'll see where I go. And so, literally at that point, it was the same thing. I kept that routine going. But then, as the miles would come on, around like mile 14 or 15,
Yep.
really down in that bad leg in that ankle area, all my tendons were pretty inflamed. I could tell it was almost
Okay.
like being on glass in a
Because
way.
you said those were
But
damaged to begin with, like during your
yeah,
accident. So, okay.
yeah.
But
And so, really, at
they
this
had
point, and yeah,
fixed it or?
well, at this point, no, in that ankle, it was still just as good as it was going to get. So,
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yeah.
missing some of those tendons and stuff, and
Ah,
so there's not really good stability in that. And so, I mean, yeah, of course, I wear my compression sock and my Achilles tendon brace or whatever,
hmm.
and so I would do that. But yeah, so I started getting a really sharp pain down in there, and I was like,
Ah,
well. I was like, I don't want to quit. I was like, I know I can go just a little bit farther. And so
yep.
I got into this mindset was, could I do one more mile? I'd get to one more mile. I was like, can I do one more mile? And I
So
was
just
like,
taking
I
it
think
the
I,
baby steps
yeah,
at a time. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I was like, I think I can. So I was like, all right. So then I would do, but then I started changing the routine up. I was like, I can't jog for 3/4 of a mile no more. I was like, so then
Oh.
I'd walk a half mile, jog a half mile. And so I did that up to about, 1 mile at a time. I got to
Hmm.
mile like 20 and I was still, jonesing and feeling the endorphins, but my leg was like, I mean, my ankle was pretty bad at this point, even worse.
Yeah.
But I was like, can I go one more mile? Yeah, I think I can. And so then at this point, it became more walking and less jogging. So probably like walking like 3/4 and
Yep.
jogging a quarter mile. But I just knew like, hey, if I could just go one more mile, I could probably do this routine, even though I'm in this pain. I was like, I think I can just go one more mile. And by the time I got up to mile 22, I wasn't stopping. No,
Yep.
I was going to finish the thing
You
off,
made it
right?
that far. Oh, no
By
way you
all
could
means
quit.
necessary, right?
Yeah.
So what the best part of all this was too was my buddy who's a doctor down in Columbus, and he's coincidentally an orthopedic surgeon. He had a nice house right along the route near like
Hmm.
mile 24, and he's a big bourbon guy. Same with me. And so I told him like, hey, I'm doing this like whole marathon, and he's like can't believe it because he knows what it is. Like he knows he was there in the hospital room with me, so he's
Yeah.
like just blown. I was like, but he was like, yeah, he's like, you name the bourbon you want, I'll be outside with it. So I told him
Yep.
Blanton's was like a really good bourbon. So he comes outside. I meet him around the mile 24 marker. He toasts me. I do like a shot of it. I drink it or whatever. We toast. He hugs me, tells me good luck and that I'm crazy. And I was like,
Yep.
yeah, I get it. I know.
Yep. Yep.
And so literally I just kept doing it. And before you knew it, I made it to mile 26, and I saw my parents and everybody, that those two guys that was with me all on the side, and just, I just couldn't believe it. I had some
Yeah.
The two
happy
guys who wrapped
tears.
your
I gave
leg
them.
when the accident happened. Those two guys.
No.
Oh,
These are the two guys that ran the half marathon, that
oh,
went
that's
the
Mhm.
half
right. That's
marathon
right.
with me, and they weren't crazy enough to run the full marathon with me. So they were with my
Well, they
parents,
had two good
and it
legs,
was
so
just, yeah. I mean, who needs those two good legs anyway, right? So yeah, so that was like a pretty proud moment, and then I completed the marathon, and that was nothing. I can't even explain it. It was just probably by far one of my proudest moments in my entire life.
It's giving me
Just I was
goosebumps. I'm
I was
telling
just
you.
elated. It took me 5 hours and 55 minutes, and
That
so
is great.
dude.
so
That is
still not
great.
terrible, but I couldn't believe it, and so I completed it, and so what's crazy is 10 months after they told me I was never going to run marathons again, I ran a marathon 10 months later.
Well, I don't
So
know what says like I'll show you other than running a marathon 10 months after that diagnosis. Like
yeah,
that is incredible to me. I am so proud of you. That is just something so huge to get over, and you did it. You did it.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and
One of the questions I wrote down during the story was, do you stay in touch with your doctors? And like 10 months later, did they know you were doing this? I know the one guy at mile 24 did, but did they know at the time? And do you still stay in touch with them? Like when you go for checkups or stuff, is it these same guys who, like the guy who was so bummed out about how it didn't go as planned on that third surgery?
Yeah, so that guy I actually stay in touch with the most because he was the one I actually would see for regular checkups afterward. He became my main doctor.
Ah.
The trauma surgeon and stuff like that, I didn't see as much. And yeah, I would stay in touch with them, and I'd let them know like, hey, I just finished a 5K. Hey, I just finished a 10K. And
Yep.
because and really, again, it wasn't in spite or anything like that. I just know like doctors go like work with a lot of patients, and I know that a lot of it's tough, right? Like they're working with some people that like can't do stuff like that, or like will never. And so I'm not
Yeah.
saying like it's like it's all like dark and gloomy, but at the same time I know it's always good to hear a positive story, a good thing, especially from someone that you worked on. And so
Mhm.
I took it as like a, hey, like look what you were able to help me do, in spite of
Absolutely.
maybe whatever your innocent thoughts were on, like, never run a marathon, this or that. But just like, I'm like, hey, like, this is a group effort. All you guys should be very proud that like you helped get me to this point. And so at all points, like I would even text, like there was one of the floor nurses that like wanted to get a hold of me this one day for like so I could write up something to the nurses thanking them or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I stayed in touch with all of them, and I was letting them know each and every bit, like, hey, I'm doing this 10K, hey, I'm doing this half marathon and that full marathon. But really the one doctor I made in touch with was the one that I had that long surgery with. But he's
Mhm.
he's to this day is the guy I go to if I have like something like an issue or something and need to get like a script wrote up or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he's extremely proud. He to this day, I'm holding him to it. He's supposed to run a half marathon with me one day. I can't. I'm trying to get him to do a full marathon. But I told the funny thing is when he was like, "Yeah, we'll do a half marathon. Winner's got to winners got to get the losers got to get the other person beers. And I was like, how about you owe me a leg? Like you owe me a lat muscle.
There
I
you go.
was like, you owe me a lat muscle or whatever.
That's a
And
good
he
one.
was like, yeah.
I think it's really good that you were still in touch with your doctors because they're just following the science. And a lot of you defied the science. You went above and beyond, exceeded expectations. According to the science, you shouldn't have done that well, but you just kind of gave them the finger and said, no, this is
Yeah.
what's going to happen. So just for them to see that it could happen and that now there's scientific evidence for that, that's huge. I'm still my mind is blown.
Then moving forward after that, the story continues.
Mm-hmm.
I moved. So at that point, I was getting discharged out the military.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it was like a 50-50 shot. It was kind of up to me. They said if I wanted to try, I could. But at this point, I knew a lot of stuff that I wanted to do in the military, that there was going to be a lot of hoops and stuff I was going to have to really go through. I'd have to go through waivers, a lot of stuff. And even if I'm in shape and running marathons, that I was going to go to the end of the line to get into these schools because of the surgeries that I had. And so I really wasn't trying to play that game. And it kind of took the fun out of, or the enjoyment of being in that aspect. And I just didn't want to do the minimal in there for another, 10 years or whatever.
That's understandable.
Yeah. So when I knew I was getting out, I started looking for other jobs. And that's when I made the move out to New Hampshire. Mind you, this is still the middle of COVID, right? It was
Right.
it was June of 2020 when I moved out to New Hampshire. So it's the middle of COVID. There was really no gyms or anything like that. At this point, I really had no aspirations to really run no more marathons. I proved to myself more than anything that anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I'm just gonna kind of do my thing. The gyms are shut down, and so I was like, hey, I guess I'll go jog outside. And so the teeny tiny blessing of the entire the gray linings of the silver linings of COVID was people had to get outside to work out. So I've met a lot of runners that got started during the COVID years or triathletes. But really, so I got outside and I went to the trail every day. So then I was running every day at the trail and
What
just
trail?
shorter distances. It was at Mines Falls Park.
Yeah, it's okay, cool, beautiful.
You were so
spot.
close. I wish I would have known. I live in Nashua, so I wish I would have known. I would have come run with you.
And so because of my outside the box thinking, I was like, well, hey, I need to do push-ups or something. I got to get my upper body workout. So then every half mile, I dropped and did push-ups. And I would also, then after a while, I was like, my legs, I was kind of getting those chicken legs again. I'm already missing muscles. I got to keep these legs good, right? So I was like,
if I saw you doing that, I would have been running by with my hand, oh, who's this guy doing? You won't see me doing push-ups.
So then I started doing So then I started doing air squats. So it was every half mile, I would do air squats and push-ups. Then I'd run another half mile.
It's actually great cross training.
Right. And so that became my everyday, I call that my quote unquote COVID workout. And I think doing that over the years, it just really built my legs up tough. Right. So then I think, what was it? October.
But that muscle's still gone. That muscle's gone.
Correct. Yeah. So then your question's how do I run? Right. A lot of people have that question.
No, I'm just wondering how it builds up. How I know it's getting stronger, but how's it? I'm wondering what it looks like now. I'll have to see a picture.
So the way I think your quads and your hamstrings do a lot of the running for you anyway.
Yeah.
So I think because those were all built up, I can pick it up, put it down. But I can't move. I can't push off with that leg, right? I can't jump with that leg. I can't push off. Mm-hmm. But luckily, I have feeling all on the bottom of my foot, so I can still feel the ground. Oh, so that's a blessing out of all this too. Yeah. So at least I can feel the ground where I'm stepping. But with my good leg too, my good leg's just been beat all the hell because of this, because I rely on it, and it's probably it's much stronger too, right? But I think just from the everyday uses and stuff like that, it just toughened that leg up. And again, I don't have those calf muscles, but I still have the muscles in front of my leg, in the front, by my shin. So I think those are the ones that really hypertrophied, and I think they've adapted to help me with my runs and stuff. So I bet those muscles in the front of my leg are a lot bigger than like the ones in my good leg just from that. So I still have those muscles where I could kind of move my foot up. It's just I don't have no push off with it. So
I
and me,
see.
I kind of always joke and say my bad leg's like my human prosthetic because it might as well be a wooden peg. I mean, I'm picking up when I run, I pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. But it's
You're
like
making
that's
do though.
all.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like the quads and the hamstrings are doing the work too, right? So I'm sure, like to this day, I'm like, man, I what if I had that good leg as well? I wonder how fast. But then I think about it, and I don't think I'd be the man I am today. I don't even think I'd be on this marathon journey. I probably don't. I wouldn't be if I wouldn't have had my leg.
Hmm.
That accident happened, which is weird. It's like it's such a mind blow to me that like. So to this day, it's like as much as I would give any amount of money in the world to have my good leg back. But there were so many good experiences that came out of that. Like, look, I met you guys. For one thing, it just the tree of things that like happened based off that
Right.
accident keeps getting more. So there's nothing that I'd ever take back from that, but I've again pushed myself to the limits, and I've learned so many lessons about myself out of this experience
Oh yeah.
that I'm so glad that
It's just another
you
part
know
of your story, and you couldn't imagine your life without it.
yeah
It's
yeah
It just
exactly
it just makes you a little extraordinary. Extraordinary.
yeah, right.
Does that make sense? But
Yeah. So two Octobers ago, I was like, "Hey, it's been about 3.5 years since I ran that last marathon. I'm getting the itch, and I want to see. I built my leg. I built myself up, my leg up. I was like, I want to see really how fast I can run a marathon now. I was
hmm
like, because that 5:55 is in my head, and that's cool, but I got to beat that, right? So I had a buddy from Louisville that is a triathlete, a Ironman, and he was like, "Yo," he's like, "if you do one, he's like, I'll come with you. He's like, keep you company." And I was like, sweet. So
do a marathon or
about
an
3 months,
Ironman.
my marathon.
Okay.
He's done an Ironman, but I was just doing a marathon. I picked the Columbus one again because it's my favorite.
yeah,
And that time I ran a 4:40. So I was like
huge
super ecstatic.
improvement.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
huge. Yeah, I was super ecstatic because I was like, I just wanted to run faster than 5 hours because I knew I
Mhm.
could run faster than that at this point. And so I finished that. And then I was really kind of just like keeping my running going. And then the World Majors kind of popped into my head again. And I was
Again,
like,
good.
I want to see if I want to let's go exploring, try to get into these World Majors. And so then I found out, I was going to be running Boston through a charity back in like January.
Hmm.
Right. And so this is all this year now. Now we're fast forward to this year. So January, I found out I was running that.
January
And then I was like,
2023.
Yes.
So a
yeah.
year
So
from right now. Yep.
yeah. So then I started thinking, I was like, it'd be kind of cool. I was like, to like run the 50 states or something. Again, I was like, surely no one's ever thought about this. Like, this is my idea, right? So I Googled it and
Genius,
I was like,
genius,
yeah, yeah,
genius. What's
yeah.
that movie, Mr. Deeds?
Yeah. I I Googled it, found out there was this huge group of, tons of people that have done it or are trying to do it. And I was like, why not, man? Like, why not? Like, tomorrow's not guaranteed. I was like, all right. So I looked up, I knew they were having reunions and I was like, I want to meet these people. So, and not October, in March, I found the Little Rock, Arkansas marathon. And
Ooh,
so
those are the ones with the giant medals, right?
huge. Yes,
Dinner
yes,
plates. I
yes,
had that one's on
yes.
my list.
You can't even really hang it on like your metal rack, really. It's
Ridiculous, right?
extremely, yeah. Well worth it
Rachel and
though, for
I,
sure.
we have some goals to hit that one up eventually, but
Yeah, I'd say for sure do it. Yeah, it's worth it. I'll probably end up going back there.
well, let me
So
know.
I
I'll
so
go
I
too.
saw Yeah, I signed up for that one, and it was going to be my training run for Boston because I wanted to
Yes.
see what my realistic kind of what I should look forward to at Boston. How fast can I run at Boston? And
Hmm.
I knew I had run a 4:40 back in October, so really there was no like real goal other than maybe beat 4:40 when I went to
Hmm.
Little Rock, and I ended up running a 4:15 when I was there, and so I was like,
Wow.
yeah,
So
so I
this
was
is
like,
from
okay,
you did one the October before. So this was what,
yeah,
5 months later, and you already cut that much time off again. Okay. So you
yeah.
are whew, flying down that hill.
Yeah, because after that Columbus one in October, I kind of was like, all right, let's lose a little bit more weight. Let's really build up the legs, get my speed going, and see how fast.
Yeah.
And again, I really didn't just want to go out there and have fun and kind of push it a little bit. And I ran that 4:15 in Little Rock, and then I was like, all right, I was like, I think I'm ready. I think think I'm ready for Boston. Like, I'm like all excited. So then I was getting all the charity money raised and stuff like that for then. But
Which charity was it?
it was for the friends, military friends.
Oh, excellent.
So it was basically going to families, military members and their families, people who are deployed, or maybe a family that's lost someone. So like it was like a good one for me, So
Absolutely.
being,
Yep.
a vet and everything. So
What were some of the things you did to fundraise to hit your goals?
I really didn't do too much. I was just asking a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I asked a lot of friends to
That
ask
helps.
a lot of people. And reach out. And so, being in the military was an awesome way to network back in the day. So I have a lot of friends all across the states and stuff. And then, so I started asking them and everybody I met out there, like, hey, like pass this on, like I'm doing this, and see how, because Boston is quite a bit to raise.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, came out of pocket a decent amount, but the way I say it again is hey, like I've always been a person that pays for experience, like for sure. I don't think there's things like that you can really take back. I heard somebody say something about when you have an experience, you can always have a memory. It's called like a memory dividend, because you can always think back on that memory.
I love that.
And so I'm like, yeah, like it was pricey, but this is once in a lifetime experience. Boston is Boston. Like this is like the mecca of running a marathon, like marathons or whatever. Yeah. And so I got into it, but then I won't lie. I was like, did it. I was like, I'm going to try to run it. But let's try to get in through the para athlete programs and stuff. So originally I was kind of being super lazy about going to get all my paperwork, filling it out, turning it into the right people so I could do this. But it was something I was like, wanting to do because I was wanting to run these marathons in the future as well, like Chicago and all of those. I knew I was going to have to do it again. So I finally got all the paperwork turned in. So this year I got in based on qualifying time.
Oh, wow.
So as a para athlete, the para division, you have to have like a 6-hour marathon within that given year or whatever. And so I've been running.
You are well within the means. Yep.
Yeah.
There
So
you go.
I signed up and so I got in. So I'll be running that again next year. And so
well, now that we know you'll be there, we're going to go cheer again because we were there last year, but we didn't know you at that point. So we will certainly be bringing up the
I was there too.
bullhorn for you. And
you're going to be there. Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. Yes. We might even have a microphone there, but we'll talk about that later.
We can't derail him during Boston. We'll derail him later. We'll get some good content. Yeah.
So is Boston's the only major you have right now? No,
I have.
No, you've done.
I have 4 majors.
Because
he's done so many marathons this year.
This year you've done 14 marathons. Yes.
Yeah. So like when I started, like, hey, we're gonna start this 50 marathon club, right? So I ran the little
jumped right in,
and I was like, I got 2, and I was like, well, Boston's gonna be 3, and so then.
So it was your first world major, though. Yeah.
Yes. And then once I got into Boston, though, they say once you get into one of the majors, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of get into others. Well, I was like, hey, London is like 6 days after. I was like, you only live YOLO. You only live once, right? So I was like, let's see if I can get into it. So then I got onto the World Majors group where it's like, thousands of people. The guy on there runs a great webpage or whatever. So then I was like, hey, anybody have bibs for London? And by luck, I found one, and I was like, all right, looks like we're going out to London. And so then I thought about it, and I was like, how cool would this be? I got 2. Let's see how many more of these majors I can get in within within a year or whatever.
Wow.
So at this point I knew I wasn't, Tokyo was already passed. But then at the same time, I'm like, let's run these 50 states. And I was like, well, I have all these future marathons. Let's just try to keep it to like 1 month, like one a month. I think one a month's good, right? So I was like,
not a big deal.
Because I'm like 50 these 50 states. I was like, I don't want to take forever to do this. I want to move on to the next goal. So I want to get these done as soon as possible.
I love it.
Right? I'm a type person. I needed a goal. I got to get over it, and then I move on to the next goal. So I was like, let's do one a month. Let's keep it at that. And then I just kept on adding them. I look forward, and the more that I'd go to, I'd make friends with more people. And they would tell me which ones to go to. And now I look forward to going to certain ones because I get to meet up with some friends from these clubs, like the 50 States Club. And so I just kept on racking them up. And I knew the fall time, there's like marathons every month. And I was like, well,
Yup.
I was going to say the
do like
math doesn't add up.
2 a
You're going to
month.
do one a month, but
Yeah.
this year you've done 14 since March.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So, I ran. So once I ran Boston, I ran London.
Mhm.
And then I came back, and then my buddy that's from New Hampshire, that's in the Guard, was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be in Louisville for the Kentucky Derby weekend, working it." And
Yep.
he's like, and I always tell him, I was like, "Hey, if you ever get a room, get like a double bedroom, and I'll just come and like I'll just drive and
Crash.
stay in the room with you, right?"
Yeah.
And so I knew a lot of people from the Kentucky Guard as well. My buddy that was in Louisville stayed down there, and I was like, "Oh, perfect opportunity to go see a lot of those guys too." 'Cause I really love a lot of those guys in the Kentucky Guard. They're really good people down there. Beautiful state. But anyhow, so I got down there, and by my surprise, there was a marathon. It was the Kentucky Derby Festival Marathon, and so that was literally a week after London.
Did you sign up
So I
like
ran
at the gate?
Wow.
it's like a day before
Okay,
or
yes.
something. I made sure I was going there. I drove there, and I was like, I might as well do this. My legs feel okay. So I ran Boston. 6 days later, I ran London, and 7 days later, I ran that Kentucky Derby Festival. So I had like
You are
3
my
done in
people,
13.
Jared. You are my people because I've done something similar to this, and people just look at you like, "Why? What are you doing it for?" But I have the same goals as you, and I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't driven that far for a race, but keep going. I want to
Yeah.
keep hearing about them.
Yeah. So then what was crazy enough was in June, I knew there was the Missoula Marathon, which is a pretty popular
Montana?
one.
Is it Montana?
Yeah, Montana.
Mm.
Montana. And so I was like, let's sign up for this. I know a couple people going to it that's from the 50 States Club, and they swear by it, say it's a good one.
I'm right.
I was
All
like,
right.
why
You know what?
not?
I'm taking notes. Okay. I actually think that's on my list.
Yeah, that's a really good. I highly recommend that one. It is beautiful. So I went out to Missoula in June and ran that, and I ran a 3:41. I PR'd there.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I was that's
Wow.
still to this day.
Your
I don't know
progress
how.
is
341.
astounding. That's
Yeah,
absolutely incredible.
so the Kentucky Derby one, I ended up running like a 3:48, which is crazy because Boston was a
Still so good.
4:07.
Mhm.
Yeah, 4:07. London was 4:15, and then the Kentucky Derby was 3:58. And so when I broke four, I felt like I wanted to cry because I
Yeah.
had people telling me not only would I never run a marathon, then I had some people say I'd be lucky to run like a 10-minute pace. These are all innocent comments, but these are all things I'm like, you don't know me. That you
Yeah.
just did something to me, like you're
You're
setting me
showing
off. But
him.
anyhow,
Mhm.
I ran that 3:41 in Missoula, and it was just I don't know, it was just a perfect day. It was the right temperature. The air was a little thinner because a little bit higher elevation,
Right, right.
and it wasn't too high though, right? I felt like if like so Montana was like 1,500 feet, which like Colorado
Oh,
mile high is 5,000. So
yeah.
you can tell a difference. But I felt like that little bit thinner air kind of made it easier for me to breathe, or maybe more aerodynamic. I
Sure.
don't know.
Whatever
Whatever
But
worked.
it
I
was,
felt
it worked, right? Yeah.
it worked, and I ran that 3:41, and that's so I've my goal every marathon since then is just be sub 4. And so now
Mhm.
a side journey, a side quest is there's a whole another group that's sub 450 staters. So now I'm trying to make sure I can run sub 4 in all these marathons so I can be in that
I
subgroup
am
or
not
whatever up
trying to get into that group,
yeah.
but good for you. Holy shit.
I want to
Woo.
I
Yeah.
want to go back to not to the day of the accident, but the people, the strangers you just met that day. You only knew them for a few hours. Have these
Yeah.
people followed your story? Are you still in touch with them? And to second on that, like, what are their reactions to what you're doing now in your journey and running a sub 4 marathon? And the same goes for your parents and your friends and the doctors. Like, what are their reactions to you doing this? And really for those friends and the people who were there, like they saw you and they saw your leg and they probably thought the
Yeah.
same, like he'll never do anything again. What's their
Yeah.
reaction today? Are they following you? Are they following this journey?
Yeah. Yeah, they're following me. This they're super proud. They still can't, just like me at points, still kind of just can't believe it. But now it's becoming such a thing with me. Like I'm going off to run another one or whatever. I think they're just getting so used to it, And I hate to say jaded, but there's more people I talk to more often. But those two guys that came and put the tourniquet, like the belts on me,
Mhm.
I make sure every year around December 8th, because that's the night of the accident. Is December 7th, morning of December 8th. I actually text everybody in that group, and because it's a very spiritual day for me.
Mhm.
I get a little emotional to this year. Every year that
Absolutely.
day, I think about it. I sit down. I reflect about that night. I reflect about everything, how I got to, year one, and then where I'm at now, and how the journeys went. Everybody I've met. So it's just a very spiritual night for me. But I usually text all those people, and I thank them for being there. But those two guys, they have even like a more of a place just because they did that. And like I said,
Yeah.
they didn't know me, so I talked to them like a couple of times, couple times a year, and yeah, I just say I thank them, and they said, "Hey, man, I just know if you were in that circumstance, you'd have did that for me too." And I'm like, "Yep," because then I would have. So, but everybody, I think, is just super proud of me, and just I think by now they're not surprised, but in the back of their mind, they still can't believe it because they were there, they seen it, and everybody
Yeah.
that knows my journey has known like everything I've put into it or whatever. So again, it's really no surprise, but it is a surprise. It's probably a really weird situation for all of them. My one buddy's like, I was in a case or whatever. I went to through a settlement and stuff, and so I had lawyers
Oh.
talking to a lot of these people, and they talked to my one friend. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know how to explain it. He's like, that's Jared. He's like, that's always been Jared. He's like, he's always been this guy you see in these texts and these Instagram stories. That's always been him. He's like, so I can't explain it. He's like, I've been trying to get him to try to run like a half marathon already. He
Yeah.
still won't. But I'm still working on that with him. But that's pretty much kind of all the reaction, is that's Jared. But um, one of the reasons why I constantly keep running too is I feel like I had so many people praying for me, reaching out for me. There are so many people on my side that had support for me all throughout it all, and I feel like I almost have a responsibility to just keep going, to keep pushing myself, and to make everybody proud. That's honestly all I've ever tried to do.
Mhm.
And I know I am, but to me, I still don't want to let anybody down in a way. And I know that sounds like no, you'll never let anybody down. You did plenty.
I know
But to me,
exactly how you
yeah,
feel.
and
Yeah.
now it's like the more people I meet, the more people I share my story with, it's like now I'm really gonna have to keep going out there and keep, making these people proud.
Well,
And
just make
and
sure you keep
honestly,
yourself proud. Like you were out there doing
yeah,
incredible things. So just don't forget that. Like
yeah,
you defied the odds. You really did.
yeah. And yeah, just another crazy aspect of it too, and I think it's kind of funny. Is like so, like I always said too. Like when I was young, I honestly wasn't a believer, and I hate to say this, I wasn't a believer in like if you work your hardest, you could do
Mhm.
anything you want. Just growing up where I was and stuff like that, I always felt like you had to be born with certain gifts or this or that to
Mm.
really get to these places or do these certain things. And I never truly believed that you could do anything you really wanted until that accident happened, until that marathon happened. And again, I just wanted to and constantly. I'm still trying to like prove to others that you can do anything, like anything you put your mind to. And no, it's not going to come easy. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have blood. You're going to have sweat. You're going to have tears. It's going to be extremely hard. But if you do that, if you work your butt off and you continue grinding, as long as you don't quit, you can do anything that you want to in this world. And to this day, with all my nieces and my goddaughters and stuff, that's all I ever try to preach to them is that. And so I just don't think they're now like they're 11 and 9 and 7. I think to this
Mhm.
day, I think it's just, hey, crazy Uncle Jared's going to run another marathon. I don't think it's like registered in their head. So I can't wait till they're in their 20s and they're like, Uncle Jared really did some stuff back in the day with
Seriously.
that leg and stuff. So I can't wait until they're actually like grasping like, and so, like, one day, whenever they're going to be pushed to their limits in their 20s or something, and when they're
Yeah.
having a doubtful day, I want them to be able to say, look what Uncle Jared did. And he proved that you can do anything. So that's just a whole nother reason why I just keep doing it.
That is a great message to pass on to them. I mean, if you really can just give them one thing, that is a wonderful message. And it applies all the time. Like it's
Yes,
yeah, it's great.
absolutely.
Good for you. I'm so proud of you too. Oh,
Thank you.
Tell me about this 50 States Club.
Yeah, so there's an actual webpage. It's 50statesmarathon.com. But I found them on Facebook. There's a Facebook group page. I figured I'd go there first to look. I'm not exactly sure how big it is, but there's a lot of people. There's got to be like probably thousands or something. But everybody's on different ranges, right? There's people that's when I first went there, I had only run like 6 marathons, but I only had 2 states. I was like, everybody's like, I have 20 states. There's people there that's ran over like 900 marathons.
wow.
I mean, it's incredible the people that you meet, right? And so I was like, I love meeting these people because I like hearing people. I like hearing people talk, share their stories and their struggles, and it just gets me pumped up and it inspires me. That's why I like sharing stories, because a lot of times when you share a story, someone shares their story, and then it just inspires me. So there was this one guy, I think he's ran over like 1,000 marathons, and I was like, I don't like, this is insane. Like, this is insanity. Like, and so like that, and it's also too, it's like, hey, there's more crazy people like me out in the world. Like I found, like you said, I found my
You
people,
gotta
man. These are
find the
my
people.
people. Yeah. So yeah. 50 States Club is, yeah, it's a website and they're on the Facebook group. They're all awesome people. Like I said, I couldn't officially join until I had 10 states, but
Oh, you got
they've
it.
seen me. I'm at 11 now. So
There
that's
you
what
go.
they're like. Oh, congrats! You can finally, quote unquote, join us or whatever. But they've all, accepted me since the first day I met them or whatever.
Oh, that's so
Excellent.
cool.
And did you officially join the Marathon Maniacs? Because you 100%
Yeah,
have qualified. Okay, good. So
yeah.
just wanted to make sure that was in there.
Because when I met a lot of 50 staters, a lot of them were Marathon Maniacs or whatever. So I was like,
Exactly.
all right,
They go hand
I'm
in
gonna join
hand.
that group. And I looked at like what you needed, and I was like, yeah, I think I qualify. So I
Yeah, you
signed
hit
up.
that like immediately.
Yeah,
The
so I
back-to-back.
met up with them.
Actually, like in what, 2018 that you did the 3 back-to-backs? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah,
one did it. So, welcome.
yeah. Right.
I'm not part of that group. Not yet. One day. One day.
Yeah.
Holy
I still need to
cow.
sign up for the 50 States Club, but I will have to repeat Kansas because when I ran it, the course was too short and it didn't officially count for the 50 States Club, Marathon Club.
I will say this too: as long as the rule is, as long as you've done at least 26.2. So like, even
I did
people
on
like
my
a state.
watch, but it wasn't
Yeah.
official. I
So
think they
like ultras, like
declined that one.
50Ks. I know you've run like ultras and stuff, so all
Mhm.
those will count. Like,
Maybe
even
I'll just
like,
go to it Ultra Kansas. There we go.
there you go. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we didn't even touch upon some of the other, like, just list them off, the other marathons you did this year, or I should say 2023, since this is dropping
All
in
right.
2024.
I'm gonna try my best,
Do
because
it.
yeah, I don't
Try
have
your
to listen
best.
from me. So okay. So Little Rock, Arkansas was in March.
You got what?
I ran Boston and
London.
London,
That still
and
counts.
Kentucky Derby, all in
Hmm.
April. And then in
So
May, I went out to the state of Washington and ran
Ooh.
Olympia.
Ooh.
And then in June, I ran Missoula. In July, where did I run in July? I think actually I might. We'll have to come back to July. I might have took
Sure.
that off because I was running a 50K in Alaska in August for my birthday.
Not a big deal.
So,
Wow.
Yeah.
well,
Alaska.
it was a 49K because it's the 49th state, and I was like, hey, I'm turning 37. Again, YOLO, like, for my birthday. So I actually went out there, and a day after my birthday, I was like, so this is how I treat myself. It's like, for my birthday, I'm gonna go run my first ultra. Why
Love it.
not?
Love
I
it.
went out there and I ran that. And then in September, September, I ran the Air Force Marathon again. And
Yep.
then I ran Berlin.
Ooh,
And then
very
I
nice.
ran Chicago.
Yep. So that's 10
And
right
then,
there.
yeah. And then after Chicago, I, where did I go in October again? Well, November, I ran Charlotte and I ran Manchester.
New Hampshire.
So
So
yeah, that's
You were back
12.
in
That's 12
town.
right
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah.
How was
So I
That's
forgot
Charlotte?
too,
amazing.
somewhere in there. Charlotte was good. I'll tell you what, it was hilly. It was very hilly. I
Oh.
was surprised, yeah. But I had a good time with that one because my buddy's wife was running her second marathon ever, and she was trying to PR. And another buddy that I met through my friend that I became friends with, I talked him into running his first ever marathon.
Mhm.
And so he actually ran with me for like 23 miles. So I was super pumped and so ecstatic for him. So these days, to be honest, I mean, I'll go run solo, but if I can run with somebody, especially for someone's first, like I get so much enjoyment
Yeah.
out of that. If someone's going to run a half marathon
Definitely.
or a full marathon for the first time, I'll like just drop everything and I'll go do that. Like I absolutely love doing that.
I would love
Just
to
getting
run with you.
people.
Erica will just blow me away, so I'll run with you.
No, I won't. If I'm going to run with people, I'm going to run with people. I will never, ever leave you in the dust. Not that I could.
When you lived in Charlotte, and I relate because we both lived there, we just missed each other. Did you ever go to the the National Whitewater Center there?
Yeah.
Isn't that place sick?
Yeah. Yeah, that place is pretty cool. Yeah, I went there with my buddy and with his wife, and we did the whitewater rafting.
Yeah.
That was neat, and then we did all like what was it the ropes courses and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So,
When I moved,
I know New Hampshire's got a bunch of those, but
when I moved to Charlotte, they were just building that place, and they had the rivers. The only thing they had were the 2 man-made rivers and all the single track trails, and I would go running on those trails. And I was like, I can't wait to see this place get built up. And it's so much cooler now than it was when I lived
haven't
there.
been back there.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures. Yeah, my buddy's like, yeah, we go there for concerts.
Yeah, every Thursday night they have like River
cool.
Jam.
No way.
They do.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
They do what Chicago does with the river on St. Patty's Day. They dye
they
it
like
green.
dye it?
They do they do like the rubber ducky race, and there's like a million rubber ducks. They have they have like rock climbing, ropes courses, zip lines like 2,500 feet long, where you go over the rivers and over the people rafting. You can go rodeo rafting, where they say you'll swim just as much as you raft. It's just this awesome, epic outdoor center, and I was lucky the time I lived there to go experience it a few times. Whenever I go to Charlotte, I'm like, if I have time, I want to go there and just hang out. You can just grab lunch and drink beers and watch everybody. This place is epic. It's epic. I mean, no free ads, but go there and check it out. So when you lived in Charlotte, I'm sure you went out quite a bit in Uptown too. Would you go to like the Epicenter and all that area? It's a good time.
Yep.
Really was a good time.
What I liked about down there was there was like 3 or 4 different areas you could go out, where there was like little bars, little areas to go drinking and stuff.
It's
like you
so
didn't
much better
like,
now than it was when I was there,
Yes.
because now you got the baseball
Absolutely.
stadium, and you have all those bars around there. You got a bunch near the football stadium, the Epicenter, the sweet little concert venue.
A lot of craft beer, a lot of good craft beers down there.
Ooh.
That's for sure. Yeah, if you're a craft beer person.
If Erica
Charlotte
ever
is-
does North
like craft beer.
Carolina Marathon, I
Have
want
to?
her to do Charlotte, because I just want to go and see friends in Charlotte, and I got
I'm game.
Yeah, so
you just did it. So it's a November race. It's on my list. Charlotte.
It was actually the reason why I didn't do NYC. So I was signed up. I was signed up for the
Oh.
Charlotte one, and I ended up finding people through Berlin and another place that said that they could get me a last minute bib for NYC,
Mhm.
and I was like, I thought about it, and but I was like, at the end of the day, I already signed up for Charlotte, and again, it brings me more joy to run with friends.
Mhm.
So with my buddy's wife and my buddy, I was running his first, and I was like, that's gonna be even a better experience.
That's
I'll
cool.
run NYC
yeah.
next year,
Yeah.
And so
are you going to do Chicago
I was
next
like,
year?
I can always do that. Yeah, I got in Chicago again, so I'm gonna run
So
Chicago.
We're hoping to.
I
Fingers
put my
crossed.
name in, and that would be so cool to do with you. So
Hey, I can tell you a way to get in, but it's gonna put you through a little bit of pain.
yeah, I don't know if I want that. Yeah, I saw the pictures. I heard the story. It's fresh in my memory right now.
Yeah. Oh, so that other October, I thought about that other October marathon was Grand Rapids up in Michigan.
Oh wow!
And that was a pretty good one. Yeah, I have a buddy that lives a half hour north of there, so I stayed with him and his family for the week. But the interesting part about that one was that was the first time I got to try pickle juice along a run.
Ooh,
So
I love.
So I had heard about it, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, but this is the experience again. I'm only going to do this once.
I'm not.
How'd it
So
go?
I
Did you like
had-
it?
I wasn't a big fan of it. Let's just say when I looped back, I didn't get it again. I didn't get
That's
it again.
fair. That's fair.
But I did.
It's an
I
acquired
took it. I
taste.
took it. I took it in. I know all the benefits, but I'll choose other ways. But again, I don't regret it, but I wasn't going to sign myself up to do it
Excellent.
again.
All right, Jared, I haven't forgotten you do have a code brown, but let's do a few other things first that we typically end our guest appearances with. And then we can keep talking as long as we want. I don't care. This is
Okay.
so much fun, and it's not even that late.
Yeah.
The two things we like to do. One is for me. I love to go creeping through Instagram or through anyone's Instagram, kind of like that
Sure.
TLC song. 'Cause I creep. Yeah, I creep.
He deep dives too. Yeah, he
This is like
really gets in there.
that chicken wings, the hot wings. The hot wings. You ever see that on?
Yes, it's a great show.
That show.
Hot ones.
Yeah.
Ones.
I was like,
such a
How
good
where'd
show.
you get
come
that
I
from?
didn't think of that? Oh my god!
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm
No,
willing to
we'll
try
say
that.
you did. He got it from you. Yeah. He
So
probably heard you talking about it.
and he has a great head of hair, just like me.
Sean Evans. I actually just watched like an episode the other day. Which one did I watch? Off topic. Okay.
It is addictive to watch those. Yes.
So
there's like 15 minutes. Easy peasy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I saw one the other day with
Kevin Hart one's good. That's like one of my favorites.
I think the Justin
I can't
Timberlake
remember who it was.
wasn't Justin Timberlake
Oh,
really good?
he was
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
NSYNC was just on it. I watched
Jennifer
that one on
Lawrence. I
YouTube.
think Jennifer Lawrence was on one. It was
Hers
yeah.
is amazing.
Oh,
They
yeah.
make
I
so
haven't
many
seen
good
that one
memes
yet.
out of hers.
That's the one I saw recently, or
What do
like
you mean?
just a
What do you
clip.
mean?
Yes, that's it. That's
What do you
it.
mean?
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, but I've seen those memes and seen that.
Casey
that
Neistat
Yeah,
part
was
you
was
on
gotta
on it,
watch
too.
hers. Hers is great.
Yeah,
I
I
think
would
Maya
say-
Rudolph has a really good one too. Anywho, it's all really funny.
Yeah. Well, so all right. So it wasn't that hard to get to the bottom of your Instagram page. You have 166 posts at today. And a lot of them are like Facebook messages that your mom sent or status updates and all that. So I lost it. There it is. I'm going to share my screen again. I picked this one because it's something I've always wanted to do. And you know what, Erica? Let's make a goal in 2024 to do this. But I want to go into a cryo chamber. And
I've done it before.
Oh yeah.
here's a picture of you in a
So,
cryo
yeah.
chamber. Tell me what this was like. How was it?
Oh man. So when I was living in Columbus, I had found out about cryo chambers just because I'm a big LeBron fan because he's from Akron like me. So I follow him, and they always rave about how well he takes care of himself, right? So, well, I guess LeBron has his own cryo chamber at his house, and I was like, okay, well, what is that? So I started googling it, seeing like
Don't
what the
tell me you
benefits
have
and
one
stuff
at your
were.
house. I'm going to be so
No,
upset.
no,
so
no.
jealous.
No, not yet, not yet. That's a goal.
Oh,
That's
I
a
like
goal.
that.
But
Need a lot of money for
um,
that.
yeah. So I found a place in Columbus that did it, and I was like, let's go try this out. Let's see what the big to do is, right? And so you get in there. They'll let you be in there for like 3 minutes, and then they drop the temperature. There's different ranges. There's different levels. For I think level 3 drops down like negative 220, and I think level 1 is like negative 160 or something like that. But I was just like, hey, if you're gonna do it, let's go to the top. Let's go level 3. So I got in there, and yeah, I did the full 3 minutes, and I kind of it was like the way it always works for me is when I'm in there because I've did it like multiple times now because I became like a believer in it. But when you get in there, like you're pretty cold, but you have like double gloves on, double like socks on and stuff. So you're keeping that, and you got your trunks on, so you're good. And so like I'm usually pretty good for like the first minute, but then the middle minute is like it starts getting when it's like pretty cold, but you stay kind of just like maybe moving around, or if you have someone that's working it, make sure they have good conversation with someone that like me at that time wasn't a good conversator yet.
Oh.
So I'm just like begging for someone like for the
Like,
person
put on
like to have a
music so I can
conversation.
dance.
Yeah. Right. So, but then like in the last minute, you get so cold. It's almost like you get so numb you can't even feel it. So like I guess some people don't like that last minute to me like my body's like, yep, this is about as cold as we're gonna get. And then, but so when you get out, you feel super refreshed. And the way I tell people is maybe it's placebo, maybe it's not, but when you look it up, it has all these there's these studies and stuff that says it works. And for me, I say if you're going to go do it one time, I don't think you're going to see the benefits from it. Just like anything else, you have to be consistent with it. Just like any other recovery tool, you got to be consistent with it to see the benefits.
Yeah.
And so it did get pricey, but I would buy like a month pass where it'd be unlimited for a certain amount of dollars. And so I would just go in there, and I would go in there. I used to just do it day before my marathon, day after my marathon. But then, so that's how I originally got signed up for it too. That was it. I knew I was doing a marathon, and I was like, I want to see how this recovery stuff is. And so that's when I looked it up and all that. But then once I started once I started paying the monthlies, I would go like 3-4 days a week. And then that's when I started seeing, I think, the benefits. I started shedding a little bit more pounds. My recovery times were getting faster. All the little aches and stuff that I typically get throughout a day started to go away. It's by no means like you do it and then you're just like, oh, I'm great. There's no more pain in the world. No, it's not like that, So, but you just gotta try it for yourself. But I think like anything, you just have to be consistent with it to seek the benefits. But it can be pricey.
I have one a mile down up the road from my house. I gotta go.
Is it Peak? Is it Peak?
Yes. And
they used to be in Nashua, and that's where I went, and then they moved, and then I was like, I don't want to go anymore.
I went to Peak in Nashua when they were like a quarter mile from my work, and we would do the Normatec boots. They had a different, like a knockoff brand, but that's why I bought my Normatec boots, because I'm like, if I use these 60 times, I will get my money's worth. And I did, and they're amazing. Mm-hmm. And you can see Normatec boots in the corner of that picture. I do want to try it. I also really want to try ice baths, and I feel like I feel like the consistency thing, I could do ice baths consistently at my house.
Yes.
If I just buy a barrel or something and fill it with snow and ice and whatever, I feel like I could do that.
With that option too.
Yeah. So I do want to try it.
I feel like you got to contact Ashley Paulson. She's got like a discount code on the one that she
does,
has.
but I also feel like I could
Ashley Paulson.
Yeah, but I feel like I could just buy a trash barrel and dunk myself in it for 3 minutes.
I mean, that's totally
But if
fine.
there's a company out there who wants to supply me with an ice bath thing, you are more than welcome to, and I will pump its tires all over the podcast. And
how many bags of ice do you need to fill a trash can like that? Like,
I think you just fill it with a couple bags and
make it cold.
Water.
And
then cold
okay.
water. I don't need it to be -28 or whatever, but so
amazing.
When I was living in Nashua, I went quite a bit. There's one in northern Mass. I forget the city down there. I'm sure it's not Tingsboro. It's not Lowell, but it was like right in between there. I found a place, and it's a little bit closer of a drive than it was to Yes. Yep. So there was one in Chelmsford where I went. Yeah. Which I used to call Kelmsford.
I mispronounce everything. Just ask
Massachusetts has the worst things to pronounce.
Yes, agree. Yeah. Yes.
Not holding it against you.
Yeah. Complete side note, but about cryotherapy, the owner of Peak said he'll come on the podcast.
Cool.
Oh.
His name is Colin Cook. I've talked to him many times before, not in years, but Jay hooked us up. Jay Duncan.
Game on. We can talk all kinds of cool recovery tips.
Maybe he'll just say, come and do you know what I do want to try is the
I want the infrared sauna is on my list.
But I want to try the salt bath one time too.
Oh, the float. Ooh, I'm game for that.
I don't know how much I believe in it, but I definitely want to try it. I just want to
it's got to be relaxing, right?
That's a one-time thing, yeah. But
yeah. Isn't it Epsom salt though?
Yeah.
So Epsom salt's really good for your muscles. So
yeah,
there you go. Throw some extra benefits.
But Jared doesn't have any muscles in his leg. He doesn't need it.
He has muscles in the other leg. He has hamstrings. Like, come on.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He's fine.
That's why I'm half calf. So the funny thing is, when I was at work, right, my buddy was like looking for Keurig cups for the office, and it's so funny. He was looking at me. He saw one, and one said decaf, and I was looking, and I was like, oh, that's mine right there. It's decaf. And then he just started, and he of course, he like wasn't sure how to take it if I was like. Because he was trying to be serious, which I make. Yeah, I laugh about it so much. Yeah, all those things. So I'm like, and then there's half. I call myself half calf, decaf, whatever. I want to make some shirts that say that. Like, did anyone say decaf and have a coffee cup and like maybe like a coffee cup missing a leg? I don't know.
Right.
That just reminds me of the guy who's on Instagram who does all those Halloween costumes because he only has one leg. So like one year he went as like the leg lamp from A Christmas
Oh my
Is it A
gosh,
Christmas
that's
Story?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like he
Yeah.
does all like one year he was Tigger and his leg was the tail. Like he was jumping in the air. Like he had some really creative stuff. So you got to embrace it. And I think
Yes.
you're
Oh,
far enough down
absolutely.
the line where it's a little easier
Yes.
to do that. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think he prepped you for this question, but we have an awesome Spotify playlist, and this is 2024 that this will drop. So hopefully by this point we'll have revamped it so it's not 24 hours long. We'll have just like
Erica's
the
goal.
guests on
Guys,
there, and
if you're listening right
I
now,
want to revamp this
check it out.
playlist.
If it's not revamped, she didn't complete her end of year goal.
I'm working on it. So we're like Eric and I are each going to only have a couple of songs on there, but then all of the guest songs. So would you
I
like to
like
add a
that.
song to it? You can have anything that pumps you up or just you're feeling at the moment, just whatever you
Yeah.
like, you can add a song.
You know a song that I've been playing a lot lately, and so when I run, I like feel good songs. I call it
Mhm.
feel good. So I have a feel good playlist, and I just
Excellent.
anything if it's something makes you feel good. And so I forget what movie I was watching, but Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers, "Islands on the Stream"
Oh
or
my
in a
God,
stream. That one's
amazing.
that one's just, and I've been playing it just left and right lately. Just it's stuck with me, so I added that to my feel good playlist. And yeah, because I have a workout playlist, but if I try to run to that, I'm gonna just deplete myself too fast. So those feel good playlists, those nice, cool, laid back songs, man, that's my favorite thing to
Definitely.
run to. It keeps me
I
in the
don't
zone
think
and feeling
I
good.
don't think that one's on there, so that song is all yours, and I'm excited to give it a
Great.
listen because
There
I
are
love me a
no,
good
I'm
feel
telling you
good
right
song.
now, there are no Dolly Parton songs on there.
Yeah.
So that's
None.
weird. Apparently, I haven't talked to any Yetis because they love Dolly. So this is going to be
Yeah.
the first.
Oh my God, Jared, this is holy shit.
There's still so much we could talk about too, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like you're an never-ending source of awesome over there. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Like I said, I love sharing my story. So I mean, and there's so much things. Yeah.
well, we just need you to keep telling me what states you're gonna do, and maybe I can hop in here and there and like see if I can join you in some. You don't have to run with me because I'm not as fast as you, but I would love to share some miles at some point.
Yeah, so I mean, going forward, I don't have a December one yet, but I'm going to. I'm thinking either Dallas, Texas, or Huntsville, Alabama.
Mm.
It's called Rocket City down there, and I guess it's a good
Oh,
one.
nice.
But in
Yeah, I need
January,
to
I'm actually
expand the
in,
list.
in January. I'm trying to get all you New Hampshire people to come to Clearwater because Millennium's putting that running festival
They
down there,
love
and
the Clearwater
What's
Fest.
the
there's a decent
date?
amount of people already coming. That's the last weekend in January, so I think it's like the 28th or
That's
29th.
okay.
But I'm actually doing the 50K.
No
So
way.
Nice. I need to
Wow.
plan out
Yeah,
how much vacation time I have. That's my
that's
limiting
true. Yeah,
factor at this point is just when can I leave work? It's hard to
yes,
do, but I would love to join you for some stuff.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm in March.
Chicago.
In March, I'm doing Shamrock. It's in Virginia Beach.
Oh,
I heard that's
that's
Oh, our
popular
right.
friends
one,
just did
so I'm
that
doing
last
that.
year.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, hey, wait. And before that, I'm doing Tokyo. So that's like
You're
a
doing
week after I get back from
okay.
Tokyo.
So wait,
Yeah.
next year you're like 2024 is it? You're going to do New York too? That's on the deck already?
Yeah, I'm not in it yet, but I'm gonna for sure say I'm for sure doing it. I'll do what I have to do
Good
to get
for
into it. I know enough
you.
people. I know enough people with the charities that I can get in if I don't get into like a
Amazing.
para division or something. So I'll finish that.
After you do the Worlds and get your 50, you got that buddy in Louisville who does Ironmans. Is an Ironman on the radar?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people have been trying to talk me into it, and I've been trying to just steer it away. But I think it's got to be on the list at this point. Just to do something like that would be incredible as well. But I think the 7 continents is in my near future too. After the
Would
50
love
states. I
that.
mean,
Wait, you mean like
after I do Tokyo, I'll have 3 continents done.
what
Mhm.
So
about
I'm
the World Marathon Challenge? 7 marathons, 7 days,
I
7
seen that.
continents.
Somebody's got to
I,
sponsor
s-
him. Who wants to sponsor
I
Jared? And
yeah,
also
I was like,
me, because I want to do
I
it
was like,
too.
I saw it and I was like, okay, this is something I might be able to get behind. And then I
Hmm.
saw the price tag and I was like, never mind. I can't
Isn't it
give it. I
like
can't.
$40,000 or is it more than
Yeah,
that?
it's like
Oh,
$45,000. And then I was
God.
like, I like paying for experience. Guys, I said that earlier, but
That's
that's
a
a
little
limit.
too
That's a limit.
too much.
Yeah, limit right there.
Definitely. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I added Grandma's Marathon in June. And so those are, and then I'll do Boston.
Grandma.
I'm going all over the place, but then and then Chicago. So I think those are all my for sure's for next year.
When you do Boston, are you going to be here early? Or are you going to stay a couple days after? Do you know what your game plan is? Because I got to meet you.
Yeah, so this past year, because I got in super late and all the hotels were like super
Erica has
pricey.
a spare bedroom.
I just did a Saturday. Yeah, I'm a great guest. I
Come
mean,
on over. Do you like cats?
you won't be able to tell them. You won't be able to tell them there. I got to be honest. I just need a place to lift my leg up when I'm sleeping. So
I can hook you up with that.
because so a couch, arrow bed don't matter. But yeah, I actually I was wanting to come in on Friday this year, and so stay longer, and then but maybe just stay Saturday through Tuesday or something like that. This year it was Sunday to Tuesday because that's all I could really afford. But I think maybe adding one more day, Saturday to Tuesday would be nice.
I want to meet you.
But because I know so many
person.
people in New Hampshire, I might just come up there for the week,
Yes.
not like in the Boston. But I'll come up to New Hampshire for like the week though. I could probably do that.
That will be
that would be so much fun. Because you've got a whole bunch of friends, so we could have a whole event for you or something, and just all hang out.
I'll come up Thursday. I'll come up like Thursday to Thursday or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be so fun.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I'm game for that all the time. Yeah.
Well, this has been a long time, but
this is gonna be an amazing episode.
Okay, you teased us about 2 hours ago at the very beginning that you have quite the Code Brown story to share. That's what we're here for. And I'll remind you one more time, spare no details.
Yeah. Well, so of course, I sharded on my first marathon, as everybody has, I'm sure. So I did learn. I do have that, but that's not mine though. That's not my Code Brown. That's just how I fit in with the marathon community right there.
That kind of counts.
I gotta do this. Yeah.
It makes me laugh.
But still, to this day, I'm such a caffeine fiend when I run. It's like I'm scared to fart after like mile 7 every marathon. So maybe
you're not alone.
Yeah,
that's a legit fear of like every marathon runner.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm to the point. Yep, like I got to worry about this now on top of my leg and everything else.
I shouldn't drink during this, right? I should just put this down. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So my Code Brown is I was running Mine Falls one day, right? And so it was in August, like not this past year, but the year before that. And so I typically run with my shirt off. All right. I like being more aerodynamic. I like soaking in the sun, getting the vitamin D. And so it was like a 12-mile day. And so as you'd expect, super sweaty, right? I was this really sweaty guy. So I was actually on my way back. So I was probably like a half a mile away from the parking lot. So almost making my full trip back. And I always like raved about how like there's all those roots and stuff. And I had never tripped. I somehow never tripped, especially with like my leg and no feeling. And so super sweaty, tired as crap. I hit a root and I just like completely just fall forward, right?
No.
And so on to all the dirt, the rocks, all this stuff. And I just became like one of those pop rocks thing, like, those little kids pop rocks. I mean, so when you look and I turned because I fell. And so I have just dirt and rocks all stuck with me all over it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, no. And I was like, well, and then the thing is like, I got to get into my car, right? I was like, I don't know how to get in my car like this, there's leather seats and stuff. This is going to be bad. Right. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was like, but I have a towel in the car. So I'm just like looking like a cookie, what I'm saying? Just all just dirt and stuff like that. So I get back. So I get back. Of course, there's that skate park there.
I know where you are.
Yes.
So I'm like, I can't get my back. So I got to get someone to get my back. And I'm looking around, and I'm looking at the skate park. I'm like, well, all these kids are like underage kids. Like this is, this is going to be a really weird. Yeah, I don't want to mess with this. So I'm just waiting. I'm walking around, and then finally I seen some guy. He had to be like one of the parents or something. Yeah, I think he was like in his like 40s or something. And I found him, and I was like, look, man, I was like, this is going to be super weird. I was like, but you see me, right? And he was like, yeah, he starts laughing. I was like, I need, no homo. I need you to wipe me off, man. I was like, I got to get in my car. And he was like, okay. And he starts like laughing or whatever. And he's like, are you sure you really can't like find someone? I was like, no, dude, like, you're it,
I've been
man. And I'm
waiting.
not getting in my car. So I don't know if he was messing with me because he was like, are you sure you don't want to get your car? I was like, no, man. Like, no, I'm not doing it. So then, yeah, so I just had a nice experience with a strange man just like wiping me down, my sweaty body and all of this. And so finally it was decent enough to where I could get in the car or whatever, and but yeah, so that was
That's a good
that
one.
story. That's probably
I
a little
love
bit different than like that someone else has. There's all the regular ones that I get,
we love it.
but that's different. Yeah,
I love
yeah,
any story that starts with, "Hey, you're gonna think this is really weird," but
Yeah.
exactly.
we encourage
Yeah,
those.
Oh, Jared, you're such a cool dude. You have this amazing story, and you're an inspiration, man. It is just
Absolutely.
the best part about this was I had no clue. I had no clue. I didn't do my homework because you're just like, let me just tell my story and ask along the
I'm
way.
glad you did.
Honest to God,
yeah.
I thought your leg got blown up in like Afghanistan or something, and it was going to be like a military thing, and it happened to be just the complete opposite. It was a car accident, and the car didn't even hit you. It was
Yeah.
all the debris and shrapnel from that pylon, the concrete pylon, and so I went in here knowing nothing, and it's one of my favorite guest appearances on the pod.
Like,
I
yeah,
agree.
appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
You're
just
super
glad you guys had me on. Yeah, and I'm happy to meet you guys. And yeah, like I said, anytime I can share my story, it's good therapy for me. And again, everybody's got a story, everybody's got a struggle, and they say that. I found a saying, and I really enjoy it. I found it lately, and it was like you go through obstacles in life because I know it's like, well, God only puts obstacles to those who can overcome them, right? But this one's
Mhm.
like, everyone has the obstacles that are put in your way. They're there so you can get over them or get through them, and then you can share those with others. So it helps others with their struggles. And that just like hits the mark right on the dot for me, and that's why I absolutely love sharing my story. Again, because
Absolutely.
anybody that I can inspire or help out or help someone with their story or their struggles, it means the world to me. And then it means my accident didn't go in vain. That's why I said that was always one thing was I didn't want the accident to go in vain either. So,
Hmm.
sharing the story, man, inspiring others. If I could get one person inspired, that makes the
Yeah.
world to me. So, and with you guys allowing me to come on, share my story and getting it out to more people, even better. So I'm just, happy and blessed to have you guys have me on.
We are equally as blessed. Thank you for sharing all of that. I mean, I'm still just blown away at how strong you are. So I just can't wait to keep seeing what you do next. I mean, you are just going to keep going and do your thing, man. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, like next time I come up, yeah, we'll meet up, and like I said, I'll try
Let
to
us
keep you
know.
posted on future runs or
Please
something like
do.
that. I see the ultras you're running. I would love to eventually try those, the 24 hours or something
You
like.
two would be
I,
best friends.
I'm,
Come to the
I
dark
am.
side. We have snacks.
Yeah, I've
That's
I've
my
definitely
new
gotten to a
saying.
point. I'm getting to a point now. It's like I am looking for failure. I'm looking to see where this body
Huh?
can go now. So looking to see how fast I can go. I
Yep.
didn't have my best run at the Air Force Marathon. I shot out fast. I was going to try to see if I can run with the 3:30 group, and I did for like 18 miles. I was super proud of myself, and I had to walk a lot of the rest of it. But I
Hmm.
was like so pumped and so like happy that I could run a 3:30 pace for 18 miles. And so, but now I want to see like how far I can get push this body,
Mhm.
because why not? So
Well, we would
any of these
love to
extra
have you
ultras
on
and
the
stuff,
ultra
that'd be
side.
super
Oh, yeah.
cool. Yeah, to join you.
Anchor
Please do.
down. Anchor down would be a good one
Either
next
that or
August.
hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Those are like easy enough where you can just test your limits. You can have plenty of
That
time and
sounds
you can
perfect.
just
Yeah.
go and do your thing. So those are the
Yeah.
most beginner ones I can think of.
Okay. Yeah. I'll be in
Hmm.
touch then.
Please do.
Wow. Erica, you have found some of the greatest guests on the podcast.
I should
Just
say thank you, Melissa, again,
Yeah.
because
Shout out to
this is
Melissa.
really
Yeah.
her for putting us in touch. So
Yeah.
I am so thankful she did.
Yeah. Jared, you're the man. I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to go for a run with you. I can't wait to cheer you on at Boston. Look for us at mile
Yeah.
19. We will stay in touch. What a way to kick off
Of course.
2024, man. Thank you so much for coming on the
Indeed.
podcast.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Jared, for coming on and spending time with us, a lot of time with us, but we thoroughly enjoy it. And you are just doing some awesome things out there. So you keep grinding at those marathons, keep doing what you do. And we wish you the best of luck, man. I can't wait to jump into one of those marathons with you someday. So
Yeah,
when you do
well, in
one of those
Ohio,
states I haven't done, let me know.
well, I know you've done Ohio already, or at least you are this year, but
I'm signed up. Yep.
we got to go there, and he does that nationwide one in Columbus. So yeah, it's so cool. Jared, keep doing what you do, man. I see all the time you post on Instagram, your story, you're running, you're working out, you're keeping at it, dude. I loved your story. We got really into it there with like looking at the pictures on Instagram, and I'm going to try to edit that one to put on YouTube. That's a long one. Maybe I'll edit some long clips of where we look at the pictures, but they are like, you might have to click on that. You got to remember, you have to click on that link, like sensitive image here, click to view. So there was some great stuff
see
there.
how it works.
Some great stuff from Jared. Super, like, what a cool story. It blew me out of the water because I first thought, okay, he's a military guy. Must have been a military accident. Turned out to do nothing with the military, just some night out in the town of, where was it, Cleveland or around there?
Akron?
Well, he's from Akron, but it was like a 45-minute drive from Akron to get to wherever he was.
I don't remember exactly where, but wrong place, wrong time. Yeah.
At some point during that interview, we talked about nurses, and particularly we talked about hot nurses, or maybe I just said, I have a hot nurse story. I'm going to share it. You ready? All right.
Sure.
I have a friend. This is not me, but I have a friend, and I don't think I've talked about this friend before in the pod, but we're going to call him Brian because that's his real name. We're just going to call him Brian.
Okay.
Brian got the snip a few years ago, right? So he tells us this story about how he's prepping to get the snip. And so he goes to the doctor's office, wherever he gets the snip. And I do think this is at a hospital. In fact, I think it's at the one in Plymouth, at Plymouth State.
Okay.
So as they're prepping him, they said, Eleanor is going to be here soon. Eleanor is going to be here soon to prep you. So he's thinking Eleanor is this old nurse who's going to come in there and shave his balls.
Okay.
So the curtain is closed, and then all of a sudden he says, this curtain opens, and here comes Eleanor, this young, extremely attracted nurse with many tattoos and piercings. And he's just like, oh my God, I am not ready for you to come here, take my pants off and shave my balls. I am not prepared. Holy shit. I thought you're going to be like a 65-year-old woman, and you're like this young, gorgeous babe. And she's like, hold on, and does the shaving cream or whatever, and shaves. And he's like, hold it in. Don't look.
Oh, how awkward.
Yeah. I go, dude, maybe the best thing that could have happened for you right then was that, because maybe if you did get a little excited, you would get everything shaved fully. But I think he held his own. Are you crying?
Oh, good. No.
Are you crying right now?
I'm not crying. I am laughing though.
Tears of laughter though. That's my hot nurse
this
story.
Podcast just goes all over the place. Thanks for sticking with us, you guys.
Well, I was going to say that's a perfect story for 3 hours into a podcast episode, because if you are still listening, you deserve that story.
Around.
Yeah. So that was great. That was great. But let's get to the outro later on Thursday. This was a fun, Jared, you're so cool. This was a good one. I am never going to be shy about having a guest appearance go long, because it's just so much fun, and your story was great. So it was a great one. And guys, we will see you in 2 days for an extended edition of the outro for episode 88. Don't forget, follow us on Instagram and all our social medias. Join our Patreon page. Support the pod so we can go to Boulder, Colorado in May, and so we can do other fun things with you guys. Don't forget to go and sign up for the Boston Run Show. Use the code podcast, and you'll get your free tickets to the run show. It's going to be a great year. 2 episodes already. What a start we're off to. I love this. Erica, save this podcast and take us home. Oh, and to all the hot nurses out there, we love you too.
On that note, you guys, we love you. Thanks for sticking around for this long episode. Don't forget to stretch.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Dolly Parton is 77 years old.
Yeah.
She looks fabulous.
The other
Madonna's,
day,
like, close,
she was
too.
singing
Right.
at the Tennessee football game. She sang Rocky Top High or whatever. She dressed up in this
Rocky
outfit,
Mountain High?
Rocky Mountain High.
He tried.
Did you see the fucking rack on her?
She's always had that rack.
Holy
Yeah.
no. Like when I saw it, it's bigger. It's bigger.
Okay. I would think that eventually she would have got it down, but no, she keeps
That's
racking
her
that thing. Rocking that
signature.
rack.
She's 77. Hold on.
Good for her.
That's her signature thing. She can't get rid of
Yeah.
that.
No, she.
Oh,
Do
Dolly.
you remember Jenny Dell? Jenny Dell worked for Nesson, was like the Red Sox sideline reporter.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Jenny Dell interviewed her, and I'm just looking. This whole interview, I'm just like, oh.
I'm
Wait.
looking at your eyes.
It's-
No,
it-
no,
maybe-
no.
My eyes are up here.
Maybe it was the. Oh, here's a picture. Here's a picture of the angle.
I love this sharing screen thing. This is like the best thing that's happened to
Yeah.
Riverside.
Oh, I mean, I'm like,
Oh boy.
I think she just got thinner, and maybe that's why they look so ginormous.
they are ginormous. Holy
really are.
shit. She's 70.
I think as she gets older, she's obviously, her bone destiny and stuff's making her skinnier, and so those things are just looking bigger.
She's a
and
tiny,
bigger.
tiny little thing. Yeah.
Look
Dolly.
at like
That permanent smile too from the Botox.
Oh boy.
holy shit.
They going outwards too. Yeah,
And they're like
Oh no, it really was Rocky Top.
They're like
Wait a minute.
yes, yeah. Take it back. Apologize.
No, I don't know what song that is then. You say Rocky something mountain
Rocky
and I
Top.
was like, wait.
The song's called
I don't know
Rocky
that
Top.
song. Okay. I apologize. I have no idea what song that is.
I'll throw the big I'll throw this big boob thing at the end.
Gotcha. This is
Jared,
our
at the
blooper.
very end of every episode after the music, there's like a 5-second pause and there's like a funny thing, and it will be, did you see the size of those knockers?
Love it.
Perfect.